Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
Oh, they're going to toss it. They haven't got it. He's on the outside line, though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now, though, for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's come back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such up. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry! Hello everybody and welcome to Imola for the third round of the Virtual World Sports Car Championship Modern Series. 90 minutes of racing here coming up this afternoon for the third round of our championship, and by all accounts this will be the circuit where it is most difficult to overtake on both multi-class traffic, I suppose, and also making up positions as well. A big talking point over the course of the day. It's myself, Ian O'Leary, and Jim Cunningham with you for this broadcast, with James BOPed pushing the buttons behind the scenes this time around. Good to be alongside you for this one, Jim. It is multi-class racing at Imola, a fairly new phenomenon, I've got to say, in the World Endurance Championship of the real world, and it has not got any easier as well, Imola, in its years being a World Endurance Championship race. It is still very narrow, still very difficult to pass on, and still feels like a very small racetrack, to be honest, for the amount of cars that we're going to have here this afternoon.
Hey, Ewan, it's good to be here with you, and yeah, you couldn't be more right. This is going to be certainly interesting with the amount of cars we've got packed on what you would call a small track. Yeah, overtaking is going to be at a premium today, and I think one of the keys is going to be patience, especially for these for the hypercar drivers. I think that it's going to be a they just need to bide their time and try to pass with caution. They can get themselves in trouble and in their race and someone else's also.
Yeah, we'll chat about our keys to the race, of course, a little bit later on. But let's just compare this track to the others over the course of this season in our schedule, because, as I mentioned, maybe it's a controversial opinion. I don't think so. It's the shortest, the most difficult, narrowest circuit on the calendar, the one most difficult to overtake on. I mean, such a stark contrast to what we're going to get in 3 weeks, by the way, when we're at Spa. I mean, it couldn't be more different at round number 4. And obviously, people don't have that much experience of Qatar, I suppose, but I still think it's going to be easier around here. Other ones that are a little bit twistier come a little bit later on in the season. In the late summer, we're at Watkins Glen and into Lagos as well. That circuit in the Americas and Indianapolis bring us into the autumn before the very end of the season. Running all the way to the 15th of November, by the way, and the 2 hours of Bahrain that will end our season. The showpiece event is now just 2 months away, the 4.8 hours of Le Mans. Of course, we'll have all of that live here on the JP YouTube channel, as always. All these rounds broadcasted, and of course the historic series, which is running alongside this one over the course of this season. Let's focus in on this track itself, though. Here, it's 15 corners, just under 5 kilometers. But yeah, it's the things you can't really see from here, Jim. It's the narrowness of the circuit and the lack of ability to be able to make a mistake and get away with it around this circuit.
Yeah, I agree. It's this circuit is definitely punishing if you do make a mistake. And as we'll see later, the tightness of this track is going to play a key factor all day long for sure.
Yeah, I know 17 corners on that map there, but how many can 15? Making my own rules. Let's have a look at those keys. As we've already mentioned, the narrow track is going to be a really difficult thing. Acceleration out of the corners. It is actually quite more of a stop-start circuit than you imagine. Imola, lots of chicanes, and so acceleration out the other side is going to be important. We'll see which manufacturers will benefit from that when we look through the classes themselves. And watching for incidents as well. Make sure you're not involved in the incidents as well. I guess we can add to that, Jim. It's going to be a bit about survival as well as speed here this afternoon.
Yes, like I was saying earlier, it's a matter of you just got to use patience around here. You keep yourself out of trouble and pick and choose your places to pass the especially the slower class cars. And just and then just try to stay out of everybody else's business as they get in trouble.
This is how you need to navigate the day as a hypercar driver. The two tyre compounds available to be used on the left-hand side, medium and hard tyres available. Fuel is accelerated, so they'll be making 3 stops today after no longer than 25 minutes. The Cadillac, Peugeot, Porsche and Ferrari are the ones that you're going to want to have here this afternoon in the cars to beat for the hypercars. No cars to beat in GT, though, this time round. It's all quite evenly matched. The fuel not accelerated particularly. It's still going to be 2 stops over 90 minutes. Should be, anyway, with half an hour at the very bottom end of the fuel window, and the tyres just mediums being used for those GT cars today. Let's have a look at the championship standings in all 4 of our classes. We've got 2 different car categories, but 4 different driver classifications. Let's work our way up, starting with GT3 AM. Stephen Miller is leading the way by 59 points. Or with 59 points, rather, at the moment. 6 points ahead of Alexander McQuarrie and Adam Gray, who is in 3rd place after his podium finish at Sebring. Peter Meyer was just in front of him at Sebring, actually. He finished 2nd. Using him as and all below have only been at 1 round so far this season. In the GT3 Pro standings, it's JT Tami leading the way by 24 points after winning both of the first 2 races. In fact, the top 3 have been the same on the races 1 and 2. It's been JT Tami ahead of David Yunt, Alan Holden, and then a change in the 4th place. Both Bradley Sellers and Peter Grau have had a stint in 4th place in both of the races. William Schützling has finished in 5th place both times. Below that, then you get to those who've scored lesser points this season. Dark Thunder Racing, Aston Martin, headed by JT Tami, currently leading the way in the team standings. Basically, as a result of him, really, you could say. In Hypercar AM, it is John Mayer leading the way. That is another small gap here as well, or quite a large gap, I should say, to 24 points. 1 win and a 3rd for him. Antonis Papadopoulos won in the 2nd round of the championship, 1st place at Sebring, but wasn't at the 1st round, and so he's 3rd ahead of Benjamin Porteous-Heath, who was only at Daytona, and so is down there in 4th place. Eric Monet has been at both rounds, but is still behind both. Jerry Chen only at the last round, and he's in 6th place, tied with Mike Pierce. In the team standings, Akiri Mistral Porsche are leading the way by some distance, considering we've only had 2 rounds. That's a very large gap, 52 points. In Hypercar, it is Daniel Kirby leading the way after his win at Sebring. Daniel Hurlock, the race 1 winner, just 3 points further behind. Johnny Gutierrez not that far away either, the only driver to have been on the podium twice so far in both rounds. Mike Bell and Magnus Dahlgren round out the top 5, and everybody down to the top 12 have been at the opening 2 rounds at Sebring and Daytona. So it's been very well attended in Hypercar at the front of the field. Smile Power Racing Cadillac are leading the way in the teams at 14 points as a result of their first 2 rounds. So that's where we are in terms of the standings. All still very close, really. Early skirmishes, really, in this championship. Not too much to speak of there because there is still so long to go. After all, we are racing all the way to the middle of November. The drivers are just in warm-up right now. We'll go through the starting grid a little bit of time when we get towards this race. But before we get any further, let's chat to Ross Smith, as we always do at the start of these broadcasts, and get a word from him, get a word from on the ground as to what it's going to be like out there this afternoon. Good afternoon, Ross. Good to have you with us again on the broadcast. It's Imola. Would you agree, first of all, by the way, that this is going to be the most difficult circuit in terms of overtaking and multi-class traffic dealing with here this afternoon?
Ewan, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Jim, as well. Yeah, I would say that you're pretty much on the money. This is, if drivers and viewers remember back to last year, where, as you mentioned, it's a new track for WEC, and multi-class racing. For VWSC specifically, it proved to be a challenge with the undulating track surface, the way that you come around hills, around corners. It's very difficult to react to certain situations, and if anyone has had an off or an incident, either because things were a little bit too close together in the pack or because they just kind of lost it on their own, it definitely creates a different type of challenge, and you do not have a lot of time to react. So those two things combined are going to make this track probably just as difficult, if not more than, some of the races that we see on the NARS calendar, the IMSA schedule, like Long Beach, for instance, or Laguna Seca, where there are also quite skinny tracks, not a lot of room to get around. Imola historically has not been used for multi-class, multi-category racing, so it's a big challenge. Usually Monza's our Italian visit for the year, but just because of real life politics, money, I think it's renditions are doing at the track. I can't quite recall why they switched them off, but here we are at Imola, so that's why we're seeing it here.
It's very bizarre that the Italian round these days of the WEC is at Imola instead of Monza, but that's where we are, and indeed we follow that calendar here as well. I want to get your thoughts a little bit on GT3 as well, because I know you're not driving in that class, but it is an interesting predicament we've got here in GT this time around. I can't remember the last race we went into when we were saying that most of the GT cars are pretty even in terms of their speed around a circuit. That is pretty unusual. Just describe to us what the GT class is like here at Imola and what the race might be like, as they're the ones, of course, being passed this afternoon, rather than the ones doing the passing in the hypercars.
Well, yeah, it was a little bit simplified with that opening card saying that they're all fairly equal, because in terms of general performance, they could be anything but. You look at some of the cars like the 911, the 296 Ferrari, they are split even as far as 50-50 weight distribution, and if you were to run either one of those cars and you didn't know which one you were in, you would swear that they are completely different cars compared to one another. And you'll see that balance play out over the course of this race. It's just that because the track is so nuanced and the cars have different characteristics that can really take advantage, but maybe they have certain strengths or weaknesses, you're going to see those cars ebb and flow throughout the race. So I think, for instance, the Ferrari could probably do pretty well here, but it's going to take a really good setup and a competent hand. I think Alan Holden, who has one of the top Ferraris, I think I saw him up in the top 3 qualified for GT3s, he should do pretty well. The AMG should be able to hold on fairly well, assuming that it doesn't wear out its rear tires over the course of the run. Its front engine design should allow it to maybe induce a little bit more understeer, keep it a little bit more stable as it tries to work its way through some of these charismatic corners, that kind of go up and down. So it'll be interesting to see how some of these drivers will just kind of, turn into superheroes at different points in their run, or, they sort of fall back to being kind of peasants and just holding on and hopefully staying out of trouble. That's going to be a big one.
It is. We're going to talk a lot this afternoon about staying out of trouble. Just one more then from you, especially about your own driving here this afternoon and where you think you're going to end up. First of all, I haven't seen the qualifying order. Where have you qualified and where are you hoping to get to in the race?
Well, Ewan, I'm actually not racing in the Modern Series this year, so you're going to be with me the whole race up here in the booth. So, but I can tell you that historically I have run here. So last year I was actually in the 296 when the cars weighed quite a bit more, and initially it felt very strong, but because it was so heavy, it would just kill its tires. Now it's quite a bit different from what it was last year. A lot of the cars were balanced against the Studio 397 cars, the Storm Gang simulation cars, versus those official DLC cars. So in order to make sure that they were competitive, one of the few ways that they could be adjusted was through simple weight addition. And unfortunately, it altered the sort of general behavior of the cars. You'd still have the underlying characteristics of how they might behave, but they just didn't feel as fun and as sporty and sprung as what you have now, which is so much closer to what they really are. All of these cars, every single one you see on the grid here, they are all Storm Gang simulation cars, and we're very proud of that. I'm working on the team, actually working on some of our historics as we speak. I got my laptop next to me, and we'll be doing that as as we're kind of going along through today's race. But they're so much better, and I'm really excited to see how the drivers are able to perform with them today, because seeing what they've been talking about in some of the Discord chat, through some of the voice channel, there's a lot of feedback, but nobody's complaining about necessarily like, oh, you know, this car feels like a slug or anything. It's more of like complaining that they can't quite eke out those few tenths that they know are there. You know, they're just, you know, jiggling some spring values, some dampers, something around just to try and eke it out. You know, maybe try and be able to glide over some of these curbs just a little bit better. And it's the same thing with the hypercars too. You're going to see them going through all the same kind of gyrations, especially right now leading up to the main race, making those last minute adjustments.
All right, well, thanks very much. I mean, I apologise. I'm so used to you driving in these.
No, you're just trying to get rid of me. I understand. It's okay. It's James does the same thing whenever he's in here.
It's very unusual, but thanks very much again, for being up here. Want to have a look a little bit at penalties as well, because there are a lot of them. We've, of course, last time out had the Sebring round of our championship, and the race stewards have been looking over everything that went on throughout that race and giving all the penalties. I'm not going to read them all out myself, because, well, you can read, first of all, but also there are a lot of them. But, I mean, one of the big objectives in these races, Jim, surely has got to be about keeping out of trouble, keeping out of the stewards' room, because it doesn't maybe necessarily affect that race in particular, but you've got to think about it later on. You've got, you know, future you has got to deal with the penalty that comes in the next race, and that's what a lot of these drivers in this field are having to deal with this season.
Yeah, I agree. I think that keeping your nose clean and not suffering a penalty for a future upcoming race is a big key factor for sure.
I apologise. I thought I was told that that they would be on the screen, but I was clearly mishearing. So I will read them out and give you a few of the headlines, especially. Jules Lalonde's got a couple of mentions. Only one is actually a penalty. Stop and hold 20 for him. Antonis Paranopoulos got a non-qualifying and a drive-through penalty at the start of this race. Brian Van Berksum is going to be starting from the back, can't qualify. Timon Suvic has got 2 warnings, and so we'll be on a bit of thin ice this afternoon, but is okay at least for today's race. Max Sunthunlap is going to be SG. I don't know what that means. Stop go, I guess. That is going to be for him. A stern warning to John Ian, not just a warning, but a stern warning. He'll be on thin ice as well. Luke Mitchell's got a drive-through penalty. Mike Pearson's got a stop go. Johnny Gutierrez also with a drive-through. Matthew Overton's got a drive-through, as well as Sean Kelly and Micah Dern as well, still pending from Daytona. So he's got to serve that if he's here today. Other stop and go for plus 20 for Mike Bell. He's one of only 2 drivers to get that. Eric Monet has got a stop and go. Michael Luck's also got a stern warning for contact as well going into this race. George Andalou is going to start from the back if he's here. He's got a non-qualifier. So plenty of penalties over the course of the last round coming into this one. And that is going to shape their race here at Imola, you would say, for those particular drivers. And Jim, I would say, starting at the back, if there's ever a circuit you didn't want that, it is this one.
Yeah, this is definitely not the place to be starting from the back with how tough overtaking is going to be here. Anybody that has to start from the back is definitely going to have to exercise caution as they move up through the field.
The drivers are just in warm-up right now, by the way. One of the, I just want to get your thoughts on this a little bit, Ross, actually, before we go into this race. One of the keys to the race that I was given earlier on that we've wiped away subsequently is maybe the threat of rain that has or was hanging over this race. Is there still a threat of rain for this one, or are we going to be in the clear here this afternoon?
It looks pretty clear, yeah. The clouds have kind of moved off. Earlier on when we were looking at weather a few days ago, it seemed like there might be some systems kind of around threatening potentially, and just over the course of the days and coming into today, it kind of cleared up. You get to see the lovely Italian countryside and mountain ranges off in the distance. So yeah, it should be nice and clear. And I think, as far as this track goes, the drivers couldn't be happier for that, because they're going to have their hands full with plenty of other traffic on the grid. It's a little bit smaller grid, I believe, from last year. It's still quite a few, though, at 37 cars on track currently. So they're going to have a lot to contend with, and fortunately, rain won't have to be one of the things they need to think about.
Yeah, I've done a couple of broadcasts in the rain actually at Imola this week, and the one thing I've taken away from them is it takes ages to dry around this circuit. Maybe multi-class racing, because they've won multi-class races, maybe that will be a little bit easier, but we don't have to think about it anyway. And in any case, even if rain does arrive, then it's not going to get dry before the end, because it's certainly not going to rain in the next few minutes. Looking at the weather, as you say, the clouds have moved away and the sun is actually beginning to shine on this circuit right now. We're just following one of these Cadillacs, in Hypercar. That's an easy mistake to make, classic European mistake to make there, isn't it? He's in the lead at the moment. Dan Herlock at the very front end, just listening and enjoying the engine sounds. Wondering what it is, Ross. Maybe you can give us an insight why it is the Cadillac that is one of those to beat that we saw in Hypercar when we were looking at Strategy Corner earlier on. Cadillac, Peugeot, Porsche and Ferrari, but for the Cadillac, what is it about this car that has provided it with a bit of an edge here at Imola?
Well, so a couple things going on with that. For one, it is a little bit more buffed from last year, where we saw a lot of drivers who try it out and give a lot of good feedback on it, and give it a real good go throughout the season, and just found that it lacked just that little bit, perhaps on the top end maybe, and maybe some of the control, where you wouldn't be able to quite push it the same way you could some of the others, like the 963 or maybe the Acura. So it's been given just a little bit of a refresh. Some of the numbers have been tweaked around weight and distribution and some of the other performance factors. So it's stronger than it was. And at the same time, you have some of the drivers who have just gravitated towards it. The CMS Pro red and blue, who have then their rivals, Dan Herlock, Mike Bell, and I don't believe they have their other teammate out today. It doesn't look like it. I thought it was Luke Mitchell, but I think he's out today. So anyway, they decided to match up too, and a little bit of that matching up towards last year. There's quite a bit of a rivalry. There's a big rivalry going into this year, and you can see that in some of the penalties that are playing out here, which are going to spice things up even more.
Absolutely, we'll try and cover those as we get this race underway in a few moments' time. But as they're gridding up, let's take a look at the starting grid. Starting with Dan Herlock, who's taken the pole ahead of Mike Bell. The two teammates locking out the front row ahead of Daniel Kirby and Robin Moling, who are sharing row 2. It's Cadillac 1, 2, 3, by the way, at the front. It is Cameron Barkin 5th ahead of Walter de Bruin. Troy Ewan and Daniel Scott will round out the top 8. All of these Hypercar drivers, no Hypercar AMs just yet. Magnus Dahlgren next in line in 9th. 2 Toyotas actually on row 5 because Timo Suvic's alongside him. It's Michael Locke and John Ewan on row 6. As they pull away for the formation lap, Johnny Gutierrez is in 13th ahead of the Hypercar AM pollster to Jerry Chen. John Mayer and Vinicius Gonçalves are on row 8. 17th place has gone to Georges Lalonde, who's going to be delayed early on with penalties. Eric Moinet is alongside him. Guillaume Benck is alongside Carl Stroll on row 10. Sean Kelly and Mike Burris round out the Hypercars, with David Yunt leading the way in GT3. He's ahead of JT Tommy, who has won both races so far in LMGT3 and is going to be challenged here more than ever by the looks of things this afternoon. Unfortunately, my stream's gone so blurry I can't even read it anymore, so you're going to have to watch the rest of it, scroll through on your screen and read it yourselves. But as far as the gridding process goes, Jim, and indeed the starting grid for the Hypercars as well, it is a Cadillac lockout at the very front. It's going to what we were talking about early on with the cars to beat. However, you could set up the argument, certainly alongside that actually the best drivers this season, in my opinion anyway, are driving the Cadillac. When you look at the likes of Daniel Kirby, Daniel Herlock, Mike Bell, that's 3 out of the top 4, all in Cadillacs in the championship, never mind here just this afternoon.
Yeah, I think there's probably no coincidence in that. I'm sure these teams test out all the newly buffed cars when they come out with the new cars for this season, and I'm sure that it's no coincidence that the top drivers and top teams picked the Cadillac this year. It's obviously a very, very strong car here, and in general across the series. As it is in WEC, it's a very, very strong car as well. So
it certainly is. Well, let's have a look as they come now down in towards Variante Alta. Everybody getting ready to go for this race. Dan Herlock on the front end of this field, ahead of Bell and Kirby, as we've already mentioned. And there you can see down the rest of the field. David Yunt and JT Tarmy, as I mentioned, on the LMGT3 front row. It's Miller and Meyer on the front row, just to confuse us in GT3 AM. So that's going to be good. We'll keep an eye on them. Stephen Miller and Peter Meyer, both of them have been at both rounds so far. Nobody's really been dominant just yet, though, in GT3 AM. So be looking forward to seeing if anybody can maybe take up the mantle there early on in this race. Well, it is time for round 3 of the Virtual World Sports Car Championship Modern Series here from Imola. 90 minutes of racing here, as we have this time around, and at Spa as well. A pair of 90-minute races that is not going to be returning until the summer, so we'll enjoy them while they last as they now come out of the final corner and onto the front straight. Dan Herlock going to be in control of the field as 1 hour 30 just ticks below. We're going to be getting underway with a few seconds less time than advertised, but that won't mind too much. Here we go up towards the line. The two leaders with quite a big gap over the rest of the hypercars for some reason. Row 2, Kirby and Moling deciding not to get right up close, just as everybody else is getting right up close down the front straight here. In towards the start-finish line they go. The green flag will be waving surely very soon, as Herlock decides when he's going to go. And finally, we will be racing on the way down in towards Tamarello for the first time. And the 3 Cadillacs will get underway. Single file at the front as expected, really, with Dan Herlock leading the way ahead of Bell, then Kirby. All single file, actually, at the front here. First bit of side-by-side for 7th place between Ian and Scott on the opening lap, the opening corners. It's a clean start from all of the hypercars this time round.
And here come you GT3s here with filing in behind the hypercars.
Yeah, that's
good battle right up front.
Oh, Tommy there had a look down the inside, and then he was on the outside of David Yunt. It is in the lead, of course, in the Mercedes. That was pretty close. Couldn't work his way through, though, and that could be a common theme here throughout the race at Imola. How are you going to be able to make those overtakes? Well, through the Villeneuve chicane there, JT Tarmy, our championship leader, wasn't able to do it.
Yeah, there was not a large gap between the GT3s and the hypercars there, as you can see. Oh, we got a hypercar around here on the tarmac.
Yeah, that's Rocco Minerale. Gilles Lalonde has gone around into a spin in the Peugeots. Yeah, the reason why that is a point of discussion, the gap between the two, is that generally the hypercars do go a bit slower. Well, I guess towards the back end of any field, you go a bit slower compared to the front end of another field. So you can actually see David Yunt closing in on the back end of the hypercars here on this lap, and that's not a surprise. It's just because the way that the rating goes down when you're strung off the back in GT3, the same thing will be happening, but nobody's started behind them, which is the advantage. This is Gilles Lalonde in live pictures, I think, trying to get back going again. We'll try and get a replay of how he went around for a spin. He's coming into pit lane as well, from what I can see here. Gilles Lalonde, and he followed in a GT3. I guess, Ross, considering he had a penalty, he's decided that he's not going to use all of his first 3 laps. He's decided, I'll just do my pit stop now, or my penalty rather now.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he's doing. Although it's kind of interesting that he's taking that approach right now, because it is a little bit premature, because you're looking at Herlock and Bell up at the front, and they also have penalties to serve, but their strategy is the complete opposite. They want to try and create as much of a gap between themselves and all the cars behind in order to maximize their ability to move up through the field. Because if they can stay out and make that gap as big as possible, they have a chance at coming out ahead of the GT3 traffic. So therefore, the only cars that are going to hold them up are the back of the hypercar field. Now, I will say Gilles Lalonde might be looking at that, and because of how close the GT3s were to the hypercar field, at release, that it's possible Gilles just said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do this now since they're already so close. I'm going to have to be in and amongst them anyway. Maybe at least early on I can start, putting some good laps in, and then once I catch up to them, they'll be more strung out. So different strategies for dealing with those penalties, and we'll see what happens with Herlock and Bell, as they're going to have about one more lap before they have to come in and do theirs.
Yeah, it's the rule, as with most series. You see in real life, actually, that you get 3 laps before you're out, if you like. 3 strikes and you're out with penalties. You've got to do it within the first 3. We've just completed lap 2 there, and unsurprisingly, the race leader, Daniel Herlock, has decided, well, not decided, he just has set the fastest lap of the race. Paranopoulos and Mike Burris also coming for their penalties. Sunderland lap as well, down the back end of the GT3 field, but that's going to be Hypercars who are having to work their way back through. It's almost a double whammy penalty for them because of the way that they end up behind GT3s to make up an overall position before they actually have to start lapping them. It's an extra overtake that they may have to make, as that's a bit wide off up in front there from Robin Moling, who broke a little bit too late there for Acquaminerale, who'll get back on the circuit again, actually without losing too much time, because the exit, the final part of that, is not too bad for tarmac runoff and getting back onto the circuit without too much of a problem. And Moling there was able to get away with it, but on the run down the hill, De Bruyn will close in, then it'll be Cameron Barker, then Troy Ewan in another one of those Cadillacs. As we ride on board now with De Bruyn here in 5th place on this run up towards the line. Jim, it is expected to, as expected really, single file between these guys. They're all promoted a place with Bell coming into pit lane.
Yeah, and I tell you, one thing I've noticed here is that the curbing is really seeming to upset these cars a lot. With like what Moling bounced over those curbs, it really threw his car off a little more than I would have expected here. I didn't realize that they were going to be quite as affected, by the curbing here.
Yeah, it's a difficult, rough ride over the curbs in places around this circuit, that is for sure. As Martin De Bruyn works his way into Tozer. And out the other side, he is under a lot of pressure here from Cameron Barker, but Piratella is next, and that is not a great overtaking chance. It is a very small braking zone at the top of the hill here. A real rise, because then it comes straight back down again in towards Acquaminerale. Oh, and that's a big bit over the curb, and there you go. There's the punishment. Exactly, just as you were talking about it, Jim. Effectively, the next corners, it's happened. De Bruyn over the inside curb too much, and he goes around into a half spin.
Yeah, it's. I'm really surprised. I mean, these curbs, you see them in, the Formula One race here and the other stuff that other cars here, but for some reason, these hypercars are really sensitive to these curbing. And yeah, as you can see, it jumped up and bit him right there.
Yeah, this is out of the final corner again. Martin De Bruyn just up in front of Magnus Dahlgren, and then Timon Suvik, who was both queued up. 1 hour 23 still to go in towards turn number 1. They are going to stay as they are with 7 minutes gone here. Yes, it's.
This is
a little bit,
quite a battle going on right here.
Yeah. So I'll get back to that in a second. If you are having troubles with the stream, by the way, apologies for that. Although a lot of people saying it's fixed now. If it is still an issue, then just refresh it, and hopefully it will be smoother when you come back again. Meanwhile, in towards Tozer, De Bruyn with a little bit of pressure there, heaped upon him by Magnus Dahlgren. Timon Suvik next in line, and then Scott has got up in here as well, actually, 9th place. Then Michael Locke is in 10th, not too far away. And then the triple one of Ewan, also not very far away. But here is that section again. How's De Bruyn going to deal with it? With a lot more easily this time round, let's put it that way, than what he had last time around here, Ross. It is walking a tightrope around this circuit, isn't it, with these curbs. And De Bruyn, especially in the hypercars, it seems, they are really sensitive to those curves in some of these places.
Yeah, you and Jim called it out pretty good. The way that these cars, especially the hypercars, are set up, they want to really maximize the attack to be able to get around this track. And so a lot of the cars are fairly tightly sprung, and as are the dampers. And that's just for the nature of the track itself. Now, once you actually get onto the curb, it's such a disjointing experience that it basically turns into a small ramp, and so that's why you see them get thrown up like that, just because they are so aggressive. You can see some of the what they call the gators around here, if you're in U.S. lingo, but they really do disrupt the car quite a bit. It's not like some of these, like when you watch them off of some of these curves through here, where you've got the red, white, and green, and they're fairly flat and close to the surface. It's when you hit some of those more aggressive ones there in Sector 2 and 3 especially, where they're purposely built up to try and keep drivers from overextending those track limits. And unfortunately, yeah, they're just hitting them, and it's starting to bite them. Props off to Voucher for being able to save that Alpine just before it went totally nuts on him, but it definitely looks like he's got a struggle going on. I think maybe that car is set up just a little bit too much on the loose and pointy side for the duration of a stint.
Yeah, it was a good save. I thought they were called turtles in America, but anyway.
Turtles, gators, we like to use a lot of different animals around a swamp.
Depends how big it is, I suppose. If it's a small one, maybe a turtle. It's bad. Anyway, here's traffic for the first time. Oh, and have a look at this in towards Ravazza. It's all going on down here. Big braking on the inside line from Magnus Dahlgren. He's going to follow De Bruyne through quite nicely there. Next in line, Subic does the same. It looks like Scott's just going to be delayed slightly. Michael Lock as well. Oh, have a look at this. Oh, no! That was always going to happen on the front straight. That was just too small of a gap. And it's catastrophe on the front straight, I'm afraid, here. Wouter De Bruyne trying to put his car down an impossibly small gap there. And unfortunately, it looks like Stacey Scotts might have been the one who was hit there. I'm not sure. But there was definitely a couple of GT3s involved there, Jim. You could just see that coming from a mile away.
Yeah, there was no way that was going to work. And again, that's exactly what we talked about pre-race. Patience. You cannot just, that was just not the place, especially with two GT3 cars side by side fighting for position. That's definitely not executing patience.
No, we spoke about patience earlier, but that wasn't particularly patient. I'm not sure there is a place on this circuit where 4 wide is even possible. If it is, then it's the front straight. But as we've just seen there, it absolutely doesn't work. It was Stacey Scottson and Matthew Overton as well. It looks to me, Ross, like they might have got out away without bad damage. But goodness me, that was so close to a real big pile up there.
And it kind of was. Fortunately, yes. Yeah, they did kind of skitter off the circuit. But I think it's hard to judge from that angle. I mean, obviously, we're kind of looking at it 2020, but I'm wondering if Vouter may have seen a small gap on the inside and thought that between Stacey and Matthew Overton that there was going to be an opportunity, and he'd already committed before it was very obvious that there wasn't one, because Vouter's usually much more careful than that, especially around multi-category races. But yeah, that one was an obvious error, so it's unfortunate that it caught both of them out, especially since Stacey was actually having a fairly good race here in that 296.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's delayed both Scotts and Overton pretty badly down there at the back end of the field. What's happened to one of the Lexi, in towards the first chicane? We will again try and have a look at that. We've got a lot of things we're going to try and have a look back at in the next few moments, but just bear with for the moment on the replays. Daniel Hurlock is still leading this race. Half a second is his gap over Dan Kirby, and it's actually a bit closer than what it was before. Robin Moling is third, then it is Barker and Uyen, all within 3 seconds or so, Jim. It is not a done deal by any means. We've got a very, very close race out front.
Very close. All the way back to this hypercar field. Here we are looking at 9th and 10th place, and they are less just about a quarter of a second apart, and it looks like Locke is going to try to make a move here. Coming up the outside. Oh, couldn't make it work, but clearly showing his nose and demonstrating that he's going to try to make a move here.
And Scott and Overton, by the way, both had to come into pit lane. Might not be a catastrophe for them, but it might force them into a third stop this afternoon, which is one too many if you are a GT3 driver. We're just under 15 minutes in here, and so shouldn't be expecting anybody to come in really just yet. As Vouter De Bruyne there gets very, very sideways out of the final corner of Ravazza in towards the first or the main straight rather, and the first braking zone of the lap. Here comes Michael Lock on the outside line, switching from inside to outside. There's someone coming out of the out of the pit lane, as well. As he on the outside line, he can't get anywhere.
Oh, we got a
Porsche stopped in front of them. Oh, Michael Lock hits them. That is a bad moment there. One of the cars in GT3 spun around right in front of these guys. Lock just hooked his rear right, it looked like, on the front end of that spun GT3 car, and he went up into the air. Somehow he's landed back down again, and he is still facing the right direction, but more carnage here early on. It might have been McQuarrie who has gone a DNF. That might be a coincidence, we'll see. But another moment here, Ross, of a spun GT3 and GT3 traffic involved with hypercar battles once again.
Yeah, he and I've just watched it back here on the monitor, and yeah, unfortunately, Alexander McQuarrie took it a little bit too aggressively into turn one there, and he actually caught that 9X8. I couldn't see if that was Gutierrez or Gilles Lalonde. I think it was Lalonde, but I can't be positive. And he actually sent him off and was just in the worst possible spot. And it looks like George Angelides has just also had a spin too. So yeah, cars are starting to get away from drivers, and we're only, like you said, about 15-20 minutes into this race.
We've not even got to the first pit stops yet for the hypercars, which are still going to be at least 5 or 10 minutes away. A very good afternoon to everyone watching along at home, by the way. Sorry for being antisocial so far. There's a lot to sort out at the front end of these races, especially when we get going at a circuit like this one. That is Overton, by the looks of things, going down pit lane right now. Stacey Scotts is back in the race at least, 34th overall for Scotts. Unfortunately, that is a long way down on the leaders in GT3, but I suppose you'd expect that after the incidents that we've seen so far. Michael Lock very much running around on his own now. It's just in behind De Bruyn by a couple of seconds or so, Jim.
To be honest, I'm surprised Michael Lock is still running. The way that car launched in the air after that run-in with that GT3 car, the fact that his car is still moving at this pace is really impressive. I really thought he was going to suffer much more damage than that.
Yeah, it's just tell us a little bit, Ross, about the sort of damage model on RF2 for those that don't know in these hypercars. Where is it that you can really make contact and get away with it?
Well, there are many spots where you can make contact and get away with it, but I would say that it certainly comes down mostly to the degree of impact. It isn't to say that some lighter contacts won't come away with some detrimental effects, but generally the harder the hit is, the more upsetting it's going to be for the car. And it does know exactly where the engines are on these. So if you're rear engine car or mid engine car and you get hit in the back really hard in the side, that can do terminal damage. And it may be the case that Alexander McQuarrie had that, or he might have had so much suspension damage on top of it that it was enough to just pull him off the track. I'm seeing that they're, this is kind of going back to one of the cars at the beginning of the race where it describes, staying out of other people's mishaps, and we're seeing that exactly happening now. There just isn't enough room really on the track to be able to pick a spot and go around like you have at a Sebring or a Spa, where there are several lanes, several options to be able to get around. So drivers really need to be heads up right now in order to make sure that they're going to make it to the end.
We are working on changing the cameras, by the way. James is just getting back control of them again, and we'll be jumping around the field again as before. But for now, we'll just tell you about the race that's going on, or the other races rather, that are not on the screen. Like, of course, Dan Hurlock, who's still leading the race by only 0.4 of a second, with Dan Kirby in second place. Parker now up to third, ahead of Robin Moling, who's back to fourth. Gained places earlier as a result of penalties, but now back to fourth place in the field, and being in fifth place early on in this race. Further down in GT3, David Yunt is still leading the way ahead of JT Tami. Craig Pullen is leading in LMGT3 AM, which is a good start from him. Stephen Miller is in second place. Meyer down in third, but behind a couple of drivers that are separating him from his nearest rivals early on in this race. As we now do indeed have a look at the two leaders in GT3 here. Jim, it was an early battle between Tami and Yunt, but JT Tami has since just tucked into line behind David Yunt in that battle for the lead in GT3?
Yeah, I think at this point they're going to just settle in and just run and open up some distance between everyone else, and they'll have their little battle. Part of it could come on pit road, obviously, with pit road strategy and how fast you get on and off and all of those things. So, I think they're not going to, put everything at jeopardy at this point. They're just going to ride for a little bit here and let it settle out a little bit later. But by the way, speaking of that, we have a vote in the in chat that says that they are all for your Lexi for the plural of.
Yeah.
The vote was for your Lexi.
Trying to work out a plural for Lexus. Lexus is. Yeah.
Lexus is Lexi. I like Lexi myself, actually.
I don't know. It's
did we have somebody go around there? I saw a lot of dirt in the background.
We did see someone go off. It was a very slow. Wouter de Bruin, I think it is. Yeah, it is. We saw him very slow out of Aqua Minerale, and he's got damage here. That's why he's driving all over the place. It's not.
He's in trouble. Yeah.
Needs to stop it in time before he comes back on the circuit again. He's going to spin round. Oh, you can see that happening. Very nearly went straight into the side of John Mayer there, as he was just slowing down to try and keep out of the way. Now, finally, he needs to get to the right-hand side. Pit lane's on the other side here. Needs to cross the road. Oh, no. Oh, no. You can see this going wrong. He's finally going to see a gap here. Almost have to come into a complete stop on the racetrack out the final corner here. Finally comes into the pit lane and will get some repairs done there. He should be fine to still make just 2 more stops after this one with 1 hour and 10 to go, unless I've got my maths wrong. So it's not going to be disastrous, but the damage itself is... it looks pretty bad, to be honest, Ross. It didn't look like he had very much control over his car at all there.
No, we saw that one coming for a while now, just based on the attitude of the car from the start of the race before he'd made contact with anything, and it just has only gotten worse. So I can't believe that he managed a second save and not have any contact with anybody, and I'm hoping that maybe with a fresh set of tires, maybe we missed something where he locked up, had a flat spot, I don't know, something that really upset that car, because you'd hope that it's something that he can maybe address with this pit stop and come back out. You hate to see it. Right now, his teammate Robin Mulling is up there in 4th place, and he's really putting pressure on the leaders up in the podium positions. So, as far as team strategy goes, they're kind of fighting with one arm behind their back with Wouter falling down. But they're not out of it yet, and when he comes out, even if he's a lap down or towards the back of the field, he might still be able to hold the leaders up and give his teammate a chance to fight back and get them some points.
Yeah, he's already gone 1 lap down, unfortunately, so it will be a race of very much just salvaging, as you say. But for now, at least it's his teammate up towards the front. Let's give these leaders a bit of airtime, shall we, at the very at the 20-minute mark of this race, because we're not seeing them so much so far. That is because Dan Hurlock has led the whole way, but there have been some other interesting things going on. I think Cameron Parker going through into 3rd place is one of those interesting things, actually, because... earlier on was running very much in the midfield of the hypercar field. Now has been moving on up and is putting the pressure on Kirby, who in turn is putting the pressure on Daniel Hurlock at the very front of the field as well. This is not what you want to see, Jim, if you're a GT3 in the rear view mirror, but it is a large battle for the lead coming towards the end of the first stint of this race.
Yeah, that would be pretty scary as a GT3 driver to see 4 of these hypercars locked up nose to tail like this coming through, because that sure will make you uneasy as they're coming up to pass you. But this is quite a nice battle up front here. You got the top 4 cars right here running within a second and a half of each other. Usually these races string out a little bit by this point, and clearly, Kirby is and Barker now are staying locked in on Hurlock here.
And they've got more GT3 traffic. They've already been through for the first time. Now it's time to do it all over again. And it's going to be a repeating cycle here at Imola. Those GT3 cars are probably going to go 6 laps down by the end of the day. So watch out for that over the course of it.
There you
Someone
go.
will stay out the way. I think
prime example right there.
But yeah.
Prime example.
Yeah, one of the Lexus going off in front and just staying out the way.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were just talking about. Like you brought up, you see that in your mirror and you start panicking and you end up running off the track yourself. And it's a repeating thing here. Apparently, this track is so small.
That was Kirby, sorry, getting caught on the outside of one of the Porsches. It's all going on back there. In fact, Ewan is catching up with Dahlgren at Suvik as well. So this is all getting a lot closer further behind. That time round, Herlock got away with the traffic. And next time round, maybe he won't. But you could argue there's now at 6 up front here. The traffic gives and it takes. And it seems, Ross, that you don't actually have very much say, really, over what it is doing to you when you're in these hypercars. They don't really have much choice of where they catch them, and it matters really quite a lot, because in some of these corners you're losing loads of time stuck behind GT3s, and now the pit stop starting as well.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. And this track, like we said at the top of the broadcast, is just one that makes it even more difficult. You do have an opportunity, though, when you see that it's coming up, to be able to position yourself in a way to take advantage of it. And the forward-thinking drivers, the ones that have really great racecraft and are sort of GT3 whisperers, will be able to read that situation well ahead of time and play it like a game of chess. As we see another off there, I think is that Valtteri? I think it is Valtteri again, who's now getting in front of his teammate, and that's not going to be good for them to be able to try and maximize this play. He's going to get out of the way, it looks like. But yeah, you're exactly right. This is going to be the play throughout the entire race, and with pit stops breaking things up, the track is just going to be completely saturated with drivers and cars up and down the field. So regardless of how well someone may be doing, you cannot just assume that they're going to run away with the race, or that a car that may be middling back in the pack, that they won't be able to rise up and take advantage of others' misfortunes.
It is very much the middle of the pit stop time. It is Valtteri De Bruin, by the way, who was in the way there and getting out of the way of his teammate. So he's got another lap down. Now then, who else is going to make a stop this time around? Because some of them have done already, but we're still waiting for Dan Herlock to come in, and indeed the rest of them as well. Kirby and Moling from the front guys are yet to come in as well. Are they going to do it this time round? Kirby's certainly in. Moling is as well, but Dan Herlock continues on again. So great news for him out front, because not only is he leading laps right now, Jim, but actually it looks like he's got, or has been able to save more fuel compared to those around him as well.
Yeah, and also he cleared all that GT3 traffic, or the majority of that little pack there. So, for him, he's got some potentially a little more clear racetrack in front of him for a little bit. Oh, hard licking by that Porsche.
Who was that? Well, I can't tell you, to be honest. Might have been Pullen in the lead of LMGT3. He's just lost a place. It was Craig Pullen. That is a disaster from the lead of the class here, Jim. I mean, he went into the wall pretty hard, as he said.
Yeah, that was a big shot right there. I mean, he's back on track, and it would appear to be that it's somewhat okay, but there's no way you hit the wall that hard and don't suffer some pretty serious damage.
Yeah, it looks like he has got damage. Slightly. He'll be getting that back to the pit lane. It won't be too long until the GT3s have to come in anyway, because their limit is about 35 minutes or so. And so that's less than 10 minutes away. But that is a loss of lead for Craig Pullen. You can see on the left-hand side, Stephen Miller has just taken that one over now. David Nutt still leads in LMGT3. Pit stops in Hypercar are still going on. And Herlock still leading by over a minute out the very front of the field as well overall. So he's going off to a very good start. However, he is now into the pit lane, is Daniel Herlock. Daniel Kirby is in second place, I think, in the overall field. He certainly is in the Hypercar field itself. And so it's going to be Kirby to take over the lead if indeed he is quick enough here. But the pit stop is very much going to be marked against Herlock. Oh, the classic RFAX 2 thing here, Ross. He's been caught behind someone pitting just in front of him there.
Yeah, they've. We know that Imola is obviously short on stalls, and I'm not even sure how they're able to manage it in real life, just because it really doesn't make sense for it with as many cars as they get out there. But it's something where they're able to manage it by running side by side. This is one of the things that George Angelidis, the race administrator, will discuss in the race brief at the top of.
Was that Bruin going around again? I'm sorry.
I think it was,
Moling.
Yeah.
Well, that
was it Moling?
I think it was Moling.
No!
It was Moling. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So one of the top contenders is around.
Yeah, he was right behind Kirby. There is Robin Moling, and he is right in behind Troy Ewan, who moves up to fourth place as a result. Next in line after that, it'll be Dahlgren and then Suvik, by the looks of things, further down in the background. 1 hour 2 to go though, and Daniel Hurlock has made his pit stop. Kirby just out behind him, then Cameron Barker, who is in 3rd place, and he's actually caught behind some lapped hypercar traffic, which you don't see very much of, but that's exactly what he is dealing with at the moment.
Oh, there he goes again.
Oh, and he spins there. Molly spins again because the lap car went for a spin and tried to rejoin right in front of him. Not a great rejoin, you'd say there, Jim, through the Villeneuve chicane.
No, not at all. But I tell you what, their cars are pretty evil handling, it seems like today. That's both teammates there seem to really be struggling with the handling on that car. Like maybe they missed the setup a little bit here or something.
It's difficult to know. As you said earlier, Ross, it's been going on for a while, and there again. Maybe this is tyre temperature spiraling out of control, but you commented on it, Ross, right from the first 5-10 minutes of this race. That car just looked a bit too twitchy for the length of race that we have.
Yeah, and they're both on the same, similar setups, I believe. They're both running that the Rookie Monsters Alpine 424. And it's odd to me because Wouter is usually one who leans on setups that tend towards stability, like all around kind of, I don't want to say safe setup necessarily, but something where you're going to be able to have that stability throughout the course of the event. So to see both drivers kind of struggling with it, it makes me wonder if maybe it's a setup that just over the course of time, maybe they've tried to loosen it up or push it towards or away from that kind of safe setup. And that's starting to come back and bite them now. Maybe they've used their tires more in a certain way that traffic has forced their hand on. Oh, big incident here. I think that Eric Moynet in the 963 down in the Hypercar AM, he was around right in front of everyone.
Monet is down towards the back in Hypercar AM. Vinicius Gonçalves is leading there, by the way, ahead of Jerry Chen and John Mayer, who's not in the pit lane, as that suggests. He's just 14th. Antonis Parapanopoulos is next ahead of George Angelidis, then Guillaume Beck, then Eric Meunier, who's only ahead of Carl Struel of those who haven't had problems so far. Sean Kelly obviously had a penalty, as we spoke about at the top of the show, so that's why he's a little bit further back. Mike Pierce is 6 laps down after the incidents of the day so far. In terms of just going back to that Rookie Monsters Alpine as well here, Ross, is there any credit in the argument that maybe it's a bit warmer than they were expecting? The sun's certainly shining in this session.
That's a good point, Ewan, and I think that might have something to do with it. But seeing how much those cars are sliding around, it might be that they're pushing it a bit more. Robin Moline, it looked like maybe he carried just a bit too much speed to that corner, and I know that he had been putting a lot of pressure on himself to try and bring that car up into position behind the leaders. So it may have just been a case where he was pushing a little bit too far outside of the car's comfort zone. But with all that said, it's interesting to see how the car dynamics are playing out here. Obviously, the Cadillacs are staying pretty strong. And I'm looking back, not far behind them, you have the two GR010s, the Toyotas, and they've slowly, as there's been a lot of action up the front, been reeling those leaders in and showing the prowess of that Toyota. I think that they might be ones to watch because they've only been closing that gap down, or at least have been holding it pretty steady while the rest of them up here are kind of dogfighting. Yeah,
it's been a real Cadillac party up front so far, but the Toyotas are coming into the fray for the first time, and some of the other manufacturers as well. We've seen Alpine up there in the past as well, though they have started to fall away with the incidents of Robin Moling, especially in these last few moments. Up in towards Variante Alta, Troy Earn's going to get caught behind one of the Lexus now in towards the chicane, and so it will lose a bit more time. There's one of the curbs flipped by the Lexus and will run slightly wide before the run down the hill. Hurlock, meanwhile, has been caught by Kirby. That might have been traffic induced as well into Rivazza. We're very much at the stage of the race now already where traffic is a pretty much constant here, and that's exactly what's happened to Dan Hurlock. He's got caught behind a bit of lap traffic, and now Daniel Kirby is closing in behind him over the start-finish line again at the end of more than half an hour of racing now in the 90 minutes of Imola, and we've still got a very close race for the lead here. And there's a look as well, Kirby just looking like he was getting into the head there of Daniel Hurlock in towards Tamburello, but no move made this time round, Jim.
No, I think that's exactly what he was doing. He was letting him know he was there, showed him his nose, see if he could force Hurlock into maybe making an overcorrection or make a mistake here. as you said, traffic continuing to play a role here. This time it works in Herlock's favor a little bit. This is it's such a mental game with the navigating this traffic on a tight course like this. There sure is something to be said about the cerebral driver who can kind of see this stuff coming, like Ross talked about earlier, the GT3 whisperer types.
Yeah. Well, I think we saw a little bit of that from Herlock, to be honest, in towards the Villeneuve chicane that time round. Instead of diving down the inside of those GT3s, he just lifted off and saved that little bit more fuel. If you are smart through traffic, with the throttle rather, you can save a lot of fuel, surprising amount of fuel, just by going through multi-class traffic without really losing any much time. Because after all, you are going to lose time, no matter whether you're saving fuel or not in these races. You might as well get some benefit from it if you are going to lose the time in the first place. Out of the final corner again for Herlock. Last time round, Kirby gained on the way down the straight and in towards turn number 1. So much so, they actually had to go. It was all down to slipstream, of course, because it's a Cadillac 1, 2, 3, 4 as things stand. But Kirby not quite with the run this time round. Out of the final corner, bit of lap traffic on the exit of the pit lane, but they'll go single file in towards turn number 1 again. And another bit of traffic now just to in front. This is, I think this is Stacey Scott's we saw earlier on in the wall, unfortunately, on the front straight. The front 3 will get away here, and that gap to 4th place continuing to grow. That Toyota and Troy Ewan actually in the other Cadillac is lurking here, Ross, but not actually getting up to these guys. They need what looks like they need a big bit of traffic in the way, and then suddenly they'll be in the game.
Yeah, you can see Troy Uyan is doing a good job defending. He's a very strong driver, and he's now kind of caught in the tug of war where he's trying to keep up with these 3 in the front, while also staving off Subic and his teammate Dahlgren. I guess Dahlgren's up there behind him right now, but it's only going to take one mistake, and Dahlgren will be able to sneak by him and potentially hold him up for his teammate to climb the ladder and get up amongst these guys.
It's such an open race still with 55 minutes to go. Such an open race. Top 8 covered by 12 seconds. And we know that Michael Locke's had various trials and tribulations over the afternoon already as well. So a real interesting look to the front of this field as GT3 pit stops are now well and truly underway. It's a classic 2-stop race for them here in the 90 minutes of Imola. No worries about needing a 3rd stop, but no real ambitions to get to a 1-stop race. Although Davidian is going to carry on for at least one more lap compared to JT Tami, who's already in the pit lane there in that Aston Martin. Is he maybe going to be able to jump Davidian here? Because after all, Jim, those pit stops carry a higher importance in GT3 when you're making one less of them than you are in the hypercar class.
Yes, absolutely. And obviously saving fuel and being able to extend that and have a little more control over when you decide you want to pit seems to play. Oh no! Oh, that was close.
Close. Yeah, very close. Cameron Parker was trying to go down the inside of a Porsche out of Tozer, and in the end actually made contact with it, slowed up right in front of him. Troy Ewan and Magnus Dahlgren get a free place up to 3rd and 4th out of Tozer. So looked like a bit of classic miscommunication through traffic there, really, Jim.
Yeah, that's again, that's going to be all day long, just misreading, what the GT3 car is going to do, or that's just endurance racing in general. But I will say it's really quite surprising to me how close this front pack of hypercars are. This is unusual. Usually they're stretched out a couple of seconds between each car, and this is a tight battle up here. I mean, it's literally anybody's race. You got 5 cars within 2 seconds, two and a half seconds.
Yeah, would it be unfair slightly maybe to say, Ross, that this is unusual to have 6 cars covered by 3.5 seconds in this series? Normally we do see bigger gaps than this, but this is fantastically open at the moment.
I wouldn't say it's unusual. I mean, it's certainly more common to see a little bit of a spread, especially because you'll have instances where the cars will show certain dominant traits. And so, for instance, the Cadillacs may have a chance to run away, say at Sebring, because they're able to hit those top end numbers, and then you might have like the 963 or some of the others pull them back in. over the course of the race and through sectors 2 and 3. Here, none of the cars really have a full opportunity to fully express the strengths of their vehicles. So everyone is sort of compromised just a wee bit in the way that their car's performance is, and on top of that, you throw all the different types of traffic in here between inner category or externally, particularly hypercars coming up on GT3s, and that just manages to bottle everyone up. There aren't a whole lot of passing opportunities, so yeah, you're going to get a snake.
Yeah, that was Sean Kelly, by the way, you saw in the background of Tamburello when we were going through there. And that is another car off down, Jerry Chen, who's off the road down there in the gravel. What is he doing over there? What is he doing? It's going so slowly, it's almost like the look of someone who's got only 3 wheels on, but all 4 are still attached, as you can see. Why is he driving so slowly, and why is he struggling to turn left so much, is another question as well. Is his engine even working? Sort of, yeah.
Something. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. I'm just going back and looking. It looks like he pulled off just before that corner, right in front of his teammate. I think that was Mayer, and he just kind of coasted down. So I don't know if he's lost. Well, it doesn't look like he's lost drive. Is he up and coming?
No, he's definitely not lost drive, because you saw his RPMs go up significantly there when he accelerated across the track to get into pit road. It was almost like he was waiting to make sure he had a clear spot or something. But
yeah,
very odd. I'm wondering, maybe he's got a physical issue that he's dealing with, with his equipment, and he just pulled off temporarily while he was addressing that in the car.
Yeah,
that's possible.
That is very possible. Obviously something that we're not going to know from our end, but yeah, that is very possible. The only reason I mentioned whether he'd lost an engine, by the way, is because the gravel was throwing up so much dust that I honestly thought it was smoke. But,
smoking, yeah.
No, it wasn't smoke on that occasion. He does indeed still have his engine, which is a start at least. In towards Ravatsa, this is really close for the lead again. And this time Daniel Hurlock feels the need to defend. 50 minutes to go, and the race for the lead is absolutely on here in Hypercar. What a battle we've got at the front of the field. Coming towards the end of the second of 4 stints in this race. Hurlock so far has been able to go further on fuel, and he's been able to lead pretty much every lap of this race so far from the pole. However, he's coming under fire now, and he's having to lap people as well. That's Guillaume Benck just in front in the Hypercar AM field, and as an AM driver, you don't want this at all. Firstly, he wanted to stay on the lead lap. Now he's going to have to let these guys through. This is really difficult. Round the outside goes Kirby. He goes through into second place. Now Benck is going to have to, mind out for the others. That is Dahlgren at the front end there of that group there, with Barker and Suvik looking for their way through. Just in the background, very close in behind there for Barker as he tries to get past Dahlgren. He goes a bit wide though, and he can't make the move. And he's hit him. Benck has hit Barker in towards Tota.
No!
And the Toyota's caught up in it as well. Magnus Dahlgren's up to 4th place, but he's had contact. Cameron Barker's down to 7th. That was all stemming from the lap traffic, Jim.
Yeah, that was Hurlock clearly handled that lap traffic better than the guys behind him. But now we've got 2 or 3 cars there that potentially have some level of damage after that episode right there. It'll be curious to see how that works itself out here and what it really did to these cars.
Would you say, Ross, that was irresponsible back markering, or and you'd advise them to get out of the way of the entire group there, or was that just an inaccuracy maybe in the way that the guys on the lead lap were actually getting past Guillaume Benck there?
I would say that, first I'll start by stating that for the way that we're running endurance here, if you're a blue flag driver, your only responsibility is to not defend. So you don't have to get out of the way. In fact, in some cases, it can actually be problematic, because if drivers are anticipating that you're going to hold your line, they might line up a pass or something to be able to get around you. And if you suddenly move off and are in front of them, then that can cause problems. So they should not defend. They should just maintain their line. Some drivers will facilitate a pass. They'll just they might just open up the steering and allow the inside line to be taken and not pose themselves as a problem. But they certainly don't have to slow down or get out of the way. I think in that instance, that stream of cars was pretty daunting, and maybe some of the ones further in the back didn't see what was going on, and it just kind of concertinaed into a bit of the action that we saw there.
Yeah, I think
go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the lap car there, after the leader passed, I think the lap car kind of decided to try to get out of the way, and it's exactly what you were talking about as we got car off track right there. That he moved offline and caught some of the cars behind off guard as they were expecting him to stay online, and he kind of was trying to get out of the way and ultimately jumped right in front of the direction they were headed.
We've got some information from Jerry Chen, by the way, from YouTube chat. Says that VWSC Engineering failed me. My brake pedal has gone. So that would be why he was driving so slowly. He couldn't actually brake anymore, just using the engine to get the car slowed and stopped. That has happened to me. But, oh no, I had a brake pedal, a throttle pedal stuck on before. That's even less ideal. But yes, it's brake pedal gone for Jerry Chen. That will be out of the race. Almost what you were predicting, Ross, there, that it was something not going on in the sim for Jerry Chen that has unfortunately put him out the race here just before halfway.
Yeah, he it looked like it, just because it was and I'm kind of looking at the rest of his team for Curie, and we got a replay up here. That's
big hit.
Now we're going to have to do some unpicking of this replay here. That's one of the Alpines who has gone around, and was he hit by JT Tarmy? It's Daniel Scott who's in the Alpine, and he was hit by an Aston Martin that looks very much like JT Tarmy's. It's Matt Overton's though, so that'll be a relief to those. That's Devon, and there will be JT Tarmy, the real one, in the background, by the way, as they come through to actually put Matt Overton another lap down. But that was a spin through turn one with pretty bad consequences. Watch out for this again here as well, by the way. The battle for the lead. 4 drivers covered by a second. Turlock, Kirby, Ian and Dahlgren all over the line, just over halfway, so don't expect to see the second pit stops rather just yet, but they aren't that far away here in the field. Got to watch out for the next round of stops coming here for these hypercars as we go along, and in towards turn one. Kirby has another look. The front four will stay together as well, because Dahlgren, has he just got ahead of that GT? Well, just about. It certainly seems, Jim, we've reduced the numbers at the front of the field at least.
Yes.
Now, let's go back to the opening of this race. And yeah, the incident with Stacey Scott's Matt Overton and Wouter de Bruin, it was trying to come down the inside, trying to force a 4-wide move when it wasn't really going to work. I mean, if you were to go back and advise again here, Jim, and maybe de Bruin would think this again if he could see this again as well. You stay behind the Peugeot in this situation, don't you? And you just make it 3-wide going past the GT3s. You're not going to try and make it 4-wide like he did there.
Yeah, clearly Stacey Scott right there, she was trying to stay as far over as she could, given that outside, since she had a GT3 car and she knew one of the hypercars was going around the outside. And just an ill-advised move by de Bruin. I think, I'm sure if he had to do all over again, he wouldn't take that line. It's just in the spur of the moment, he probably saw something there that he thought was a hole, and it didn't work out. Unfortunately for Stacey Scott, it really kind of messed her race up, obviously.
And Scott's currently down, actually DNF. Not a direct result of that, but might have contributed along the way. Matt Overton is still in the race, as we know, because we've just seen his most recent incident. Unfortunately, he is taking on another fairly long pit stop, though, down towards the back end of the field as we go up to the GT3 leaders. Haven't seen these too much so far, but that's because there hasn't been a real battle like we've seen at the front of the overall race. Javed is still ahead of JT Tarmy by 2.5 seconds. And this is big, I think, for Javed here, Ross, and it's big for the class, I would say. JT Tarmy has won both of the first races, and winning races is very advantageous in the point system. It's given him a very big lead, even though Yunt has finished second twice. And so it was very important that didn't get out of hand, and JT Tarmy didn't go on a really big winning streak at the front. This is an important race for Yunt, or at least somebody else, to beat Tarmy and take some points off him even this early in the season.
You're 100% right. And it's important for Yunt to be able to get in there and get as many points as he can. This is very dicey.
Oh, wow. They are bumping.
No love lost
he's
between
got
those
him.
two in the Pro Series. As we were trying to talk about the GT3s, here come the hypercars to butt right in. So
This show's about us. Here we come. Oh,
Yeah,
man. Herlock.
Yeah.
Got car around. Is that one of the Toyotas?
It's
yeah,
Dahlgren.
Dahlgren.
Yeah, Dahlgren. Magnus Dahlgren from 4th place at the time. He goes around. We'll have a look. We'll try and unpick this. We'll get back to the GT3s in a second. This is madness, really. Dahlgren, he was clipped there by an Alpine. They're obviously team. Is that an Alpine? Or is that another
I think it was his
Toyota?
teammate.
I was
I
thinking
think it
that
is,
was his
isn't
teammate that hit him.
Wow.
Yeah,
it is.
Suvik might have just clipped him by
Oh.
obviously by accident.
Yes.
Right, hope. That would be awkward. Here's the replay from chase cam, just so we can actually see if it is contact or if it's yep, there you go.
Oh
Goes
yeah.
straight into the back of his
Yeah.
teammate there. Oh, and he's just narrowly avoided on the way past as well by everybody else. Really disappointing for Dahlgren, and you can imagine Suvik's feeling pretty bad about it as well. Suvik comes into pit lane, meanwhile, alongside Michael Lock and also Troy Ian as well here, Ross, but that's one of those awkward moments through traffic. And in all of that, we didn't mention Daniel Kirby actually did get past Daniel Herlock in the traffic again as well. So it was all happening there in Hypercar.
We saw that move come flying through there along that curve, and it looked like Daniel sent it from way back. It was pretty amazing to watch there. I think that was down in which corner was that? The Minerali, I think. But yeah, he managed to throw it just way at the inside. I'm curious to see how the rest of this race is going to go because obviously, there's a very strong rivalry between Herlock Bell, that Smile Power team, and the CMS Pro team, specifically the red team with Daniel Kirby and Cameron Barker. It's they're still right there. This is very much on. So it's will tempers flare, or are they going to keep it cool and just kind of bang doors a little bit as we come into the final half of the race?
Well, I would certainly say for the moment they're going to keep things cool because they've got to worry about those who've already stopped more than each other just for the moment. Troy Ian is the first of those who's made his way out onto the circuit again after those pit stops a few moments ago. So he is now sick, but will be promoted a little bit later on. As we cross over 40 minutes still to go. These guys are nowhere near in a window to make this a two-stop race, by the way. It's pretty much impossible unless you go far too slow for any sort of reasonable speed. So it is all about the 3 stops being made this afternoon by these hypercar drivers. And indeed the GT3s, all about their 2 pit stops. This is Jerry Chen. He actually realised his brake pedal went bad before he actually had to go into a braking zone, Jim, which is very helpful. Put himself into the grass to help him slow down.
Yeah, he had his teammate right there with him too, so that was a healthy get out of the way. He actually did a really good job of getting that car off the track and not causing any problems for anyone else.
We've also had, just after that, Eric Monet retire. And this is how, into Minerale, big slide, saves it, and carries on. So that was a contribution along the way. But unfortunately has DNF'd a little bit later on in the day, Eric Monet. So that is 2 retirements from the same team in pretty quick succession there. Unfortunately for them, as the leaders make their way out the final corner onto the front straight. They're still going here, still stretching out this stint for as long as they possibly can.
What's funny here is you watch Herlock's car now that he's in second place back there, and I'm sure he's getting a little dirty air off of Kirby's car, but all of a sudden Herlock's car is kind of twitching around, which you didn't see early in the race at all from him. He was smooth as glass for the first half of this race, but now after getting past, if you watch him, his car is getting very twitchy back there. I don't know if that's just it's time for a pit stop, or if if that dirty air is messing with him, or if he's driving a little too hard. To see right there, prime example. Yeah, he's pushing for sure, but I'm not sure. It's probably time for a pit stop and some tires.
Yeah, any contributing factors, Ross, that might be causing Herlock to twitch a bit more, or are we just watching him a bit closer than what we were before?
I think Jim might have hit it on the head there. The car is fairly worn at this point. I'm not sure that any of them went for tires on that one. I could be wrong though. And that's where you're going to see some of the strategies play out. Obviously, the The hypercars do have the two compounds. They've got medium and hard. I don't think it's quite warm enough. Track's showing 33 for them to really need to lean on the hards. Now, for this year, I will point out that Storm Gang has adjusted the performance of the hard versus the medium. So there's more of an overlap in terms of performance and wear. I think the mediums start to wear just a little bit sooner, and the hards are able to hold on. They have a little bit more grip to them. So it provides a bit more strategy, but I think for today's race, you're really going to want the performance of the mediums, even if it means wearing them down quite a bit more. So anyway, back on topic, I think that some of it is also just driver aggression. I know that Herlock is very aggressive, and Kirby tends to be pretty aggressive on his tires too. So between the two of them, I think that they're just going to be pushing their cars to the absolute limit. Like I said before, there's really not a whole lot of love loss between these two teams, and both drivers are going to be doing everything they can to maximize their positions on track.
Yeah, it does feel like this race has been just turned up a few notches after losing the lead here. Daniel Hurlock having a new leader has just turned the tension up here a little bit, and everyone is pushing hard. That's a bit wide from one of the Aston Martins. Who goes a little bit wide. That was Matt Overton again, who just went slightly wide through Acca Minerale. Didn't help Herlock. He's now a second away from Kirby. They're still waiting for a pit stop here, by the way. This is turning into a very long stint compared to Troy Uyen, who came in earlier on and is now in that third place, just ahead of Timon Subic. Down in towards Ravazza now as well. They are absolutely locked together, these two, although with Kirby with the most breathing room he's had for some time. Now he's going to come in though, Kirby, and Herlock's going to continue on, much like he did in the first stint. You'd expect this. Herlock's carrying on again here, Jim, just trying to extend the advantage on the low fuel that he'll now be experiencing.
Yeah, I think light fuel load will be beneficial, but potentially, being able to extend this out a little bit could make for a faster pit stop for the last stop of the race. A little less fuel needed to get to the end, which could save a couple of seconds on pit road. Man, he is driving so aggressive right now. It's like once he got past, it just lit a fire in him, which I'm not necessarily sure is good for his tires, because he just seemed to be so smooth earlier. But look at, he is slinging that car around. I love it. I love that aggressive driving.
That's exactly the lap car getting out the way thing we were talking about earlier on there. Very nearly going wrong for Daniel Hurlock, just trying to get past. Might be Bank again, although I'm not sure about that. Be somebody else. I think it was Guillaume Bank though. Just trying to get out the way, trying to be helpful, but actually sometimes it really isn't helpful when you're getting out the way as a lap car. Just stay on your line and they'll work it out. Hurlock was shaping forward for a move on the inside and very nearly made it. Kirby, meanwhile, is going to be back out onto the circuit again in a short while, and Hurlock's getting caught up in traffic now on his lap. He'll be hoping that this is not the only lap he's got, because he's really being held up here. Another moment through Ravazza where he's held up, and a big slide as well coming onto the front straight. He's got to cut his losses and come in now, but arguably carrying on would have helped him even further maybe. But let's see as Hurlock comes into the pit lane. I think this is going to result in Daniel Kirby leading again here, to be honest, Ross, based on those last couple of corners.
Yeah, I agree.
It's going to be close.
I'm wondering, Jim, if he's going to take tires, it'll certainly extend the length of the stop. 30-some minutes left in the race. I mean, could fresh tires give that to you, or do you want to get that track position and just try and stay out in front? That's the question.
At this point, I think that you, if you're looking at what's coming up in the future, then you take tires here, and maybe you don't take them when you short fuel on that last stop. But it did not look like his car was up off the ground, so I don't know if he is taking tires or not.
We will.
There was some debris there flying around. I don't.
Here he goes. Look, he's moving. Now then, where is Kirby going to be? 4, 3, 2 seconds.
He's gone,
down.
yeah.
It's going to be Kirby in the lead, I think, but it will still be close. It's a good stop from Hurlock, but Kirby does get into the lead. There's Davignon, by the way, in the Mercedes. Look at Troy Uyen here in third place. He is now motoring on up the inside, and he's going to stay with Hurlock. So it's the 1, 2, and 3. Kirby, Hurlock, Uyen, with a big gap back to Timon Subic, who's fourth. Then Michael Locke is now ahead of Magnus Dahlgren. That's probably down to the spin at the chicane. Johnny Gutierrez is now ahead of Cameron Parker. Mike Bell is still recovering from his penalty earlier. He's 9th. Moling recovering from his problems as well. He's into 10th place here, Ross, but the front three noticeably ahead of the rest of the field. Why would you guess that is for the top three, that they've got such a big gap now compared to before?
I think it's just been the flow of the race. We've just had a number of things happen, and I've actually been getting distracted by the fight for Hypercar AM. Antonis Paparanopoulos and Vinicius Goncalves have been duking it out back and forth. They're a little bit separated now, but they were right side by side. And through that first sector, it was very close as we saw the 9X8 of Vinicius Goncalves nearly wipe out as he was trying to hold Antonis back. But I would keep an eye on that fight in the back of your mind. And George Angelidis isn't too far behind that. So if they end up coming back and crossing swords again, he could inherit that, which would be great for him. He hasn't had a great start to his season. He had a few incidents early on in this race. But I think that he could be in a good position now that Ikiri Mistral has been having all of their problems. John Mayer's the only one left on that team. And, George might be able to finally come away with some points over top of that team if he can hold on to it.
Yes, just come lap down by the way. So we will keep an eye on the Hypercar AMs. They'll actually be around these guys as we're watching them following the battle for the lead as well. Herlock has gone down and chased down Kirby here. Just over half an hour to go, Jim. It felt like before the two were helping each other because they were both on low fuel and they needed to stretch out a margin over the others. And it did work because they're still 1 and 2 now. But there's going to be less working together surely now that they're all on the same strategy all over again and there's just one stop to go in this race.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if a big twitch there. I don't know if I'd call that working together. They're both driving so hard. My question is there any way that we can confirm that Herlock did or did not take tires? I would love to know if he did.
It's
I didn't see that stop was way too short for him to have taken tires because Kirby would have had to take them as well, and he just wasn't far enough behind for that. So no, I think they both decided to extend it.
in just in front of these guys. And
No, he hit him.
Herlock would have seen that coming, but he still couldn't avoid it. It's a really difficult braking zone down there at Ravazza anyway, and he's right on the limit. He's just spun out wide into the spun machine, and that is disastrous for Daniel Herlock, the pole sitter and long-time race leader here at Imola, has come into contact with one of the spun lap cars. It's a Peugeot, actually. Initially, it gets into them, and let's see the original spin itself, but goodness me, this was a big moment in the race. It's a big spin for one of the Cadillacs down at the bottom of the hill. The Peugeot ends up hitting him. And Herlock, to be honest, might have been having his own spin anyway there.
Yeah, I think his car, what we saw there was he probably saw that coming and was trying to avoid it and turned his wheel more, and that's what made it look like he was about to spin out himself anyway. I think that was probably induced by the fact that car was sitting on the track there, and he was trying to avoid it, and it just caused it for him to spin as well. Well, that's a shake-up up front for sure.
Yeah. And
he's now 13 seconds off the lead.
It's a big time loss for a spin like that. But anyway, I guess waiting to get some space to rejoin again is what takes you quite a long time. So Herlock now 5 seconds in front of Michael Lock, but goodness me, he's going to have to bounce back here quickly, Ross. You'd have to say probably in the final half an hour, that might be the chance of a win gone now.
I don't want to say anything because it'll flap the butterfly's wings on that. So I would just say that those are the exact type of things that we've been saying all race long. The track is so difficult for drivers to keep the cars underneath them. The tires wear out so quickly here because of how much you're pushing around these corners. So you really honestly have to stay out of everyone else's race in order to preserve your own. That's going to be the number one thing. I would never think that Imola would be considered a track of attrition, but clearly 2 years in a row now, we're seeing that being the case.
It is, yeah. There's not much room for error around here. It is separating those who have made them and those who haven't over the course of today. Daniel Kirby leads overall. Antonis Paparanopoulos leads in the Hypercar AM field. Choyun gets caught in behind a little bit more lap traffic here. Is that Gonçalves himself, actually, in the Peugeot? Might be. Could be wrong. It is. Yeah. It is Gonçalves. So there's your gap in Hypercar Am. It is bigger than what we saw earlier on. Gonçalves, it's going the wrong way for him, unfortunately, right now. In LMGT3, David Yunt and JT Tarmi are knocking lumps out of each other, really, but they are still 2.5 seconds apart. They're setting some great lap times, but they are just not able to get together for a battle right now. It's a great race between the two of them, though. In LMGT3, Am, Peter Meyer is leading the way ahead of Craig Pullen, who somehow got away with that big hit on the wall down at the VWSC chicane. I'm not really sure how, but he is still in second place. Still, though, this is the closest battle for the lead in any of our 4 classes now. Ross, I'll let you talk a little bit more about GT3 but without being interrupted this time around, because it all kicked off last time we tried to do all that. But, well, we'll do this replay first, and then we'll get to that. This is the Pullen incident earlier in GT3 Am. How he got away with such a hard hit on the wall there, I'm not quite sure.
Fortunately, there's no engine in the front, but and I mean that's not the only one that he suffered. I was just before we kind of switch over to GT3, I was taking a quick peek over at Antis Paparanopoulos, and it looked like he had a little bit of a spin too. This is not that incident.
More of Pullen's incidents.
Yeah, over on the inside, looked like. So Pullen has had a few incidents here.
Whoa!
That was sudden.
Yeah, brake bias. 100%.
As our illustrious leader James would say, that's a Porsche doing Porsche things right there.
Yeah, he's clearly. I mean, if any time that you work or overwork the tires, particularly in these GT3s, they're so difficult to control. You really have to let those temperatures come back down before you push them again. As you see Antonis Paparanopoulos coming through here. I really do enjoy racing with Antonis. Been running with him in the historics. He's aggressive, but he's fair. I really enjoy going door to door with him, and it's kind of cool seeing him up here. I was hoping Vinicius might give him a little bit better of a run, so we could see some more battles coming through here, but it's not over yet. Kind of going back into your description of the GT3s, I think at this point a lot of them have been sort of put in the blender, and they've all kind of been spread around the track. David Junt there, as we see him just in front of, I believe, is that Mike Bell? Oh no, is that Herlock? No, it was Bell. It was just me being wrong there. Yeah, we've obviously had a lot of these cars kind of thrown around. Mostly a big battle between the AMG, a Mercedes, and the Aston Martin Vantage, and both of these, by the way, they're the Evo versions, which we've been some of the first to have those on the sim, particularly the Vantage. So I'm very, very proud. Kind of tap myself on the back for that one, or SGS, I should say. Anyway, so it's a nice battle going on here, and we're seeing that throughout the championship. I think that your two heavyweights within those two models would be JT Tammy, as we've discussed, and David Yunt. He obviously Yunt ran the NSX last year, and he did a marvelous job extracting every bit of pace out of that. As we see Mike Bice kind of going off in the sand trap on the corner, we might be getting a replay of that one. Yeah, he's.
Oh golly! Oh, he hit him. It clipped him. It looks like.
Seen quite a few of those. That side there's
maybe not. He's already got damage up there.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of those purple caddies. Yeah, it looks like he might have just cleared him. But there have been a lot of those types of incidents where we've seen cars go off and run through a sand trap, coming right back across the track. Imola obviously has a lot of left-right corners, and it looks like John Uyan, as we were talking, he just had an off in the exact same spot. And unfortunately, he ended up going the opposite direction. It looks like he might have hit the wall. He's back and going again, but he's now fallen prey to Antonis Paparanopoulos, who's moved up in front of him in track position.
You know, it's funny to when I think of Imola, I don't think of like a circuit that leads to a ton of off tracks and things like that. I mean, it's a tight circuit, we know that, but we have seen so many different cars just off tracks, like losing control on their own in a lot of instances, way more than I'm used to. It's I I don't know if it's because the track is hot and it's making it that much more slick, but it sure seems to be causing them fits, even aside from the traffic issues.
Yeah, and
It's,
Jim, it's not even all that hot today. Like I was saying before, it's only showing 33 degrees on track, which, I mean, air temperature, that would be kind of toasty. It's 13 degrees out in the air, Celsius, and for the track, it's not that hot. But you're exactly right. We're seeing an awful lot of offs, and that's really been the thing that's been hurting drivers today. It hasn't been as much with car-to-car collisions, although we've had a few, as we saw early on. It's just been drivers going off just like that. And that's an odd one for John Uyan. Typically, he's not one to kind of have unforced errors like that. But
well, that was a product of that curbing. He caught that curbing, and it got his car crooked going into the next turn, and then that's when it caught up, it gripped up, and he lost it.
Yeah, it's pretty vicious through Tamburello, and John Uyan is now down to 12. Actually losing a place to Papadopoulos won't matter for his points, but he is a driver who'll have to get past in the meantime, as we follow Daniel Kirby in a different one of those Cadillacs. He's here, he's 3 seconds ahead, just about. There is Uyan and Barker, meanwhile. They have got a lap down, unfortunately, now. What a change of fortunes, especially for Barker, who was battling for the lead earlier on, but also John Uyan. Both of these guys, Jim, 1 lap down, fighting over 11th place. I think, though, Barker's made his final stop, and we're still waiting for John Uyan's, and indeed most of everybody else's.
Yeah, it's one of those products of some of that tight racing up front and those few incidents that just kept happening up there. Cars that were in real contention to win this race, and ultimately just got caught up in some business, and now they're, unfortunately, like I said, just have gone a lap down. But still good racing, though.
Yeah, even if they are a lap down or not, doesn't particularly matter for the racing. As they come out the final corner here, Troy Uyan comes into pit lane from second place. So Daniel Hurlock will move up into that position now with just over 20 minutes to go. But whether he's going to stay there by the end of the race is a very different story. Nearly 11 seconds is the gap to Daniel Kirby. So if I'm not mistaken, Ross, that has been coming down to Daniel Hurlock.
It has.
Yeah, you're exactly like you guys are saying. It's starting to close up. Hurlock is not one to sit around, and when he has a fire underneath him, like we've seen now, he's not going to let. Oh boy, and there's a little bit of an off.
Of course.
He's not going to let Kirby get away no matter what. So he's going to do everything he can to track him down. I am curious to see what this does to the fuel situation come into this last phase of the race, because they should be about there now. I haven't been paying as close attention as I probably should, reporting from pit lane. But my guess would be that Hurlock has probably used a little bit more than Kirby, because I know that Kirby does tend to be pretty good on fuel. I don't know if it's going to be enough to maybe eke out another lap, another few seconds, but in general, just considering how this gap has started to close down, my money would be on Kirby saving just enough to be able to maximize that final stint.
Well, of course, we knew that Hurlock had been going a lap or 2 or even 3 longer on the first 2 stops. Presumably, he was doing well on fuel and was potentially setting up a shorter pit stop for this last stop. So it'll be interesting to see how all that shakes out. If he built up enough cushion and he is not just completely roasting his fuel right now, the thought that he might be able to make up a couple of seconds. It looks like we got somebody off right there. They're all over the place off the track here.
On the circuit!
No! Come on!
Going back onto the circuit, and unfortunately, that car was not coming back on there. It's Sean Kelly, who is already 3 laps down, or is now 3 laps down, I should say. The penalty earlier on in the race. This is what happened. Oh, he was hit, first of all. So he was wronged initially by a Ferrari, went into the wall pretty hard, but why he came back across the circuit like this, I'm not really sure. Right in front of the race leader, Daniel Kirby, who didn't really know where to go, he was flashing the lights, and he did make contact with him.
Yeah, I don't think he saw him. I think he was totally unaware that that Kirby was coming through. Of course, now at this point, I believe that's 1-1 for that Cadillac team. I believe that's AM Racing Alliance, which is Sean Kelly, Carl Struhl, and Guilherme Bank, all of them have had contact with one of the podium drivers at this point. So they're probably not making a whole lot of friends out there today.
No, that's one way to get TV time. So what that did is, it cut into Kirby's gap there. Certainly, Herlock is now, he was about 7.5 seconds, but it seems like he lost a second there somehow. So this is gonna, and depending on what maybe damage Kirby may have gotten out of that, this could shape up and get interesting.
That was a real sideways moment from Daniel Herlock there. He is, as you say, now just 8 seconds away from the race lead of Daniel Kirby, who is slightly dented by that in the last couple of moments. This is going to be a very exciting finish to this race, though. Just less than 17 minutes remain. And there is Daniel Kirby. Bit more traffic now to deal with through Acqua Minerale. Again, just about the patience you were talking about earlier, Jim, and that's exactly what Kirby does there, even despite losing time. He'll hope to win that back again. It's a tense situation, though, with not long to go now in this race.
Yeah, it's funny, it's one thing to get caught up in some traffic and maybe you make a bad move passing somebody or whatever. That's one thing, but man, a bad rejoin like that to just cripple your race if it does indeed hurt Kirby, which he is losing time now. That's tough. That was a tough rejoin there for sure.
Well, the gap now 7 seconds or so, with 16 minutes still to go. That's a teammate of Herlock coming down pit lane to confuse us all. Just coming out onto the circuit at the very same time.
I'm really excited to see this last round of stops and see what happens here. This could get quite interesting.
It certainly could. In GT3, by the way, David Yunt is still leading the way, but he's making his final pit stop right now as well. There he is, down on pit lane. JT Tami, I think, has already done so. So let's just have a look here at GT3 and how this is going to shake out at the very end here. This is going to be close by the looks of things. 2.5 seconds was the gap beforehand between JT Tami and David Yunt. It was in favour of the number 55 driver, the Mercedes driver. Is it going to be again as they exit the pit lane for the final time? These are the final stops in both classes, and Yunt's already rolling here. This could be an advantage for him of some seconds here. There's Tami. He's not going to get ahead of David Yunt here at Ross. It looks like he has got away with a fairly large lead now in the final run to the end.
Yeah, he's really well positioned here before they come into the final segment. The GT3s, they've been doing really well overall, and as far as mostly staying out of other people's dramas, or at least not causing their own. We've seen a few instances here.
We are just meanwhile going to dip a little bit further down in the GT3 field and have an in-race chat with Jamie Zalecki, 28th overall, 7th in class at the moment in GT3. Good afternoon, Jamie. How are things going out there at Imola this afternoon?
Hey, everyone. Things are, they're going. A little bit better than Sebring.
We've seen so much of the traffic interaction so far today between hypercars and GT3 cars. What is it like being out there as part of the slower class?
It's a madhouse. Those first couple laps of the race, those were great. No traffic, and then slowly it just got crazier and crazier and crazier.
And we've just seen the final pit stops for the leaders in GT3, and I'm not sure there's anybody in anywhere in the field who is still yet to make a stop. Can you tell us maybe a little bit more now the stops are over about partly your strategy, but what the strategy sort of options were as a GT3 coming into today's race?
Yeah, I think we can make it about 35 minutes on a full tank of fuel. So I started just under a full tank, trying to split it into 3 stints at 30 minutes each. So that's what we're doing. It doesn't seem to be working out very well since we started 5th and now we're down into 7th.
Is that down to strategy, or is that incident? Or are we still expecting stops? I've not been keeping an eye on the midfield of GT3 yet.
No, I think stops are over. I mean, I haven't had the cleanest race, but I feel like I've lost a lot more time than it felt like. So I think that was just bad strategy on my part.
Well, oh, there's a bit of a slide. I can't ever feel we're distracting you slightly, but there we go. it's part of the thing. What is Imola like in GT3, taking away the hypercars here? Because we've been worried for the prototypes about the curbs. The GT3s are a bit better over them, but doesn't mean it's an easy circuit. What has it been like?
Yeah, I think the GT3s are a little bit better over the curbs, but man, they're still rough. I was out here in practice, and it felt like if I was staying off the rumbly curbs here on corner exit, that it was actually helping my time. So I think the curves are really rough, and you're better off just completely staying off of them if you can.
Yeah, it's a bit strange, a circuit where there's not much tarmac runoff anyway. It still has massive anti-cut curves all over the place. It's a bit strange, but anyway, that's besides the point. Thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us, Jamie. Great to hear from you mid-race, which is something we don't often do. Hopefully we'll chat to you again soon at some point in the future. But for now, thanks for coming to chat to us, and good luck for the final 12 minutes of this race.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the last bit of the race here.
Thanks very much. That is Jamie Zalecki, currently running in 27th overall, 7th place in GT3, we believe, in class at the moment. Have you ever done a mid-race interview, by the way, Ross? Quite a skill there to chat to us and drive.
Well, he said that he was up for it early on. We try not to just snipe anybody sitting in the main lobby and just pull them in totally unaware. But some of them are willing to do it. JT Tammy has given us a few in the past. I've helped out on one or two here or there in some other series. As he was talking, I was looking and saw that Craig Pullen had some more incidents, some more off. So he is really, really not liking his car right now. I'm not sure if he has some damage from earlier on or what the situation is, but clearly he does not have the bias or really control dialed in on this thing.
Oh, man.
That car was loose from the get-go there on the way towards Ravazza, all over the place. It's almost like the rear wing wasn't even attached.
That looked like a brake bias issue there. The second he touched the brakes, that thing came. Oh, he was on the painted part of the track there too. It didn't like that either.
Yeah. To be fair, even before he hit the brakes as well, it looked like it was going on there. It is showing him ahead of Stephen Miller right now in 30th place. I don't know if that is the lead in GT3. No, it isn't. It's Peter Meyer is still leading, of course. So that's an even bigger gap now. But Miller might even fancy his chances of catching up to Pullen here if these issues for the Porsche are going to continue on as we go back to the leaders, because it is pit stop time. Kirby Herlock follows him, but the gap had come right down just before these stops.
Yeah, that was the last time I looked, which was right before we cut to those Poland replays. It was down to about 3.5 or 4 seconds, and I think it even got down further than that. Clearly, I think Kirby is suffering a little bit from that incident he had earlier. Be curious to see how this all shakes out from here on, though. But we definitely have a race again for the lead in the hypercar class.
Let's have a look at the pit stop times for the two of them. It's not going to show us the time for Kirby. That doesn't necessarily matter. It just matters what the gap is going to be between the front two as they come out the pit lane for the final time, and whether Troy Ian's going to be a factor in this at all either, because Herlock was really catching Kirby, don't forget. Was that a result of Kirby losing time or Herlock gaining it? Well, it might be a combination. Troy Ian is nowhere to be seen right now, but the gap out to Herlock now, nearly 4 seconds. Lost a little bit of time in the pit stops, just under 9 minutes. He was catching before the stop, Ross, but you get the feeling that might be a bridge too far now with the amount of time remaining.
And I think that it's coming a lot down to the fuel strategy. They're certainly well underneath the amount of time they would need, about 20 minutes or so per stint, 22 minutes. So I think in this case, Kirby was able to speed up his stop just a little bit more and get out just a little bit ahead. Now, did he take enough fuel? That's a question mark too. He might have short-filled and tried to see if he can maybe utilize some of his track position, some of the traffic, to be able to kind of run a slower pace, conserve fuel, and eke it out right to the end while still holding Herlock back. So we'll have to see there. Herlock may have taken more fuel than what he needed so he can go on maximum attack. It's going to be spicy to see what they can do in the last 7 minutes.
I mean, I think, Ross, you hit the nail right on the head earlier. Regardless of what happened earlier in the race, Herlock started pushing there after that incident, like you said, and I think that he was burning significantly more fuel, and ultimately that paid off for Kirby, I think, in being able to take a little less fuel, assuming that he got enough fuel to finish the race. So I think you were dead on accurate there with that, and which is unfortunate because Herlock had kind of been using the fuel strategy earlier to work in his favor, and then in the end it didn't work out that way.
Well, let's see if there is enough time remaining here for Herlock. It doesn't look like it, to be honest. The gap started to go the wrong way for him immediately here. 6.5 seconds with just 7 minutes still to go in this race. Mike Bell has recovered to 8th place, just ahead of Cameron Barker. It's always hard to really judge a recovery drive because, don't forget, earlier on, in case you weren't with us, Mike Bell had to serve a penalty from the previous round at Sebring, and so dropped down the field very early on indeed. It was a stop and hold plus 20 actually, so one of the more severe. Good drive through. That is all over the grass for Cameron Barker on the way down in towards Tamburello, and very high stakes and high speed lawn mowing there. Thankfully, we all got away with it and nobody ended up in the wall.
And these are the teammates to those two at the front. So this is very much on to maximize points for both of their teams. Mike Bell is going to do everything he can as rear gunner to try and keep Cameron behind. You can clearly see Barker has quite a bit more pace on him right now for whatever reason, but they've got all of this traffic right in front of them. So this is about to get hot.
Yeah, if Kirby can finish ahead of Herlock with Barker finishing ahead of Bell, then that would be a big gain for CMS in the points. They're 14 behind coming in today in the points after a big gain at Sebring. They're not ahead though because they had a big loss at Daytona in terms of teams championship points, so it is very much seesaw between the two. They're going to have a very similar day on points for the first time this season really, with this race at Imola if it holds in the final 5.5 minutes. There's an Acura now right in front of these guys as well. That is a lap car and it's not for position. Oh, hello. Where are they going to go with the Mercedes just in front? I think that's Selecki on the inside line. And it's Bell around the outside through the first bit. That's very nicely done. He's got himself a margin over Barker now because of his very smart run around the outside there through traffic.
And just a quick note, Angelides is actually the cause of him, well, sort of him losing Daytona by less than... I think it was 0.02 of a second, because he caught him just in the bus stop chicane, and on the last lap, and his teammate Dane Herlock managed to just snipe it away from him. We see Cameron Barker going around the outside. That's not going to help him, and he's around.
Barker goes around. It was Angelides right in front there, who looks like he was almost defending from Barker, to be honest. He did everything he could right up until the point of defending, and that will be argued about afterwards. Barker will certainly feel, I think, that he was mistreated there. He will finish 9th as a result of that, Jim. It looked like a difficult moment through lap traffic. Let's see it again.
Yeah, Angelides was definitely making it difficult there for sure. Whether or not he was defending or blocking or... this is actually further back, but this is a good show of the way he was driving, up front there. Like I said, I'm not going to say he was blocking or defending, but he certainly was making that car as wide as possible.
Was he defending, blocking?
I'm gonna have to see, because it was just out of camera shot when we saw it going through on the live feed. We're gonna come up to it now because we saw that view kind of back when Zalecki was kind of in the mix, and here we are with Cameron coming in, and it's just gonna be about right here, and he's just kind of driving his line as he's entitled to. I mean, he's allowed to drive it as he sees fit, I think Cameron just was trying to sneak by the outside. Yeah, that's kind of getting into the braking zone. And he dips a wheel
Tell you the weird thing is.
So George wasn't. Just go ahead.
Sorry, the fact that Angelidis moves it over initially, back again, which is the weird thing to me. I don't know why he did.
I think he saw Cameron coming and was starting to react to it. It's actually very similar to what we saw at Daytona when Mike Bell was going around him on the outside, and George moved over to the left, which actually caught him onto the apron and sent him a little bit up the track, which was a very dangerous moment. In this case, I think he was just trying to take his line, and he's probably watching what Cameron was doing, maybe not anticipating him sweeping out like that, maybe thinking that he was going to hold position, go behind him, and then he suddenly was right next to him, and so George started moving left to try and give him room. But at that point, it was too late. Cameron was well deep into the braking zone and off the track.
Well, that was unfortunate for Barker, but it looks like it's going to be resting on Kirby here today for the points gain for CMS. Looks like they are going to gain points as well. Herlock is catching him, but they're about to cross on to the final lap of this race. They just overtook David Yunt and JT Tami for the final time, by the way, in this race, and they are close. It's only 3.5 seconds for the lead out front, but this is even closer. Less than a second, Jim. We're coming up towards the last lap. It's going to be a grandstand finish in LMGT3.
Yeah, this is a great battle right here after essentially after 90 minutes, and we're like less than a second apart here. This is fantastic.
It's JT Tami looking to make it 3 in a row after winning at Daytona and Sebring to start the season, and it's Devin Yunt looking to take his first win of the season after being runner-up both times. The white flag will be waving proverbially. I think it will be the last lap anyway. I don't think Kirby's going to squeeze in another one at the end of this one, but we'll wait and find out when we get to the end of it. The best overtaking chance you could say is in towards Tamburello. That's going to be in the rearview mirror here for Tami. He's going to have to find somewhere else to get through here, Ross.
Yeah, I was looking at where Kirby was. He might snipe a second lap out of this. It's very close. I'm not sure if he'll make it in time, but that would make things quite a bit more interesting, especially with this hypercar traffic coming through here. David Yunt is definitely praying for those hypercars to battle and hold each other up and not cost him anything as they come around to the next set of corners. It looks like they're not going to unfortunately be there to help him in that particular instance. So yeah, here's Kirby, and we've got 25 seconds left. I don't know.
It looks like to me it's going to be checkered flag this time round, but let's find out as they make the run down the hill here. It's been a great race from Daniel Kirby, putting the pressure on Herlock early on, navigating the huge battle that we saw for a long time in the first half of this race. Eventually it's filed out just a little bit. The time is going to tick away, and Kirby is going to see the checkered flag this time round. A great victory for him in the 90 minutes of Imola. After some great battles with the likes of Herlock, our championship leader goes back-to-back in the VWSC Modern Series. It's Daniel Kirby who wins the 90 minutes of Imola. Checkered flag does now wave, and it's Kirby by 6 seconds. Further behind, Papadopoulos is going to win for the Hypercar AMD, just as he's passed in the last couple of moments there. The GT3 leaders, David Yunt, soaking up all the pressure to the line, and it's going to be a nail-biter right the way home. But in the end, JT Tami couldn't quite get past, and he finishes second for the first time this season. Further behind, Peter Meyer is going to win in the Lexus in GT3 AM. Probably the lead that's been settled from furthest out in this race, to be honest. It means we'll have 3 different winners from the first 3 rounds in GT3 AM, the only of our categories really where nobody has seized the moment here early on in the championship season. It's been a very topsy-turvy start to the season indeed. Peter Meyer, after second place at Sebring, is going to go one better this time round at Imola. He wins the 90 minutes here in GT3 AM as everybody stuffs themselves off the circuit down at turn number 1. A great race, Jim, and a great grandstand finish there, especially in GT3, and a relatively close finish overall as well.
Yeah, that was some fantastic racing from top to bottom there, and we had a lot of action in this race, a lot of passing, a lot of incidents, some exciting stuff. There wasn't a boring minute in this race. This was great.
Absolutely. Thoughts, Ross, as we come to the end of this one? I fear sometimes at Imola that it's so difficult to overtake, nothing's going to happen, but that certainly wasn't the case here.
No, and I just coming off of last year, I know even though that the field was a little bit smaller than it was previously, that it was still going to be a firecracker of a race, and it did not disappoint. It's unfortunate to see some of the incidents that we saw that just caught up some other drivers in some serious ways, but overall, it's pretty good.
We'll discuss some of those again in a few moments as we have a look at the race results with Daniel Kirby on top for the second round in a row. Dan Hurlock just in behind him in the end, with Troy Ian rounding out an all Cadillac front three. Toyota and Peugeot joined them in the top five with Timo Subic and Michael Lock. Great drive from him. Magnus Dahlgren recovered from being hit by his teammate to still finish sixth, but of Johnny Gutierrez. Mike Bell recovered from his penalty to finish eighth, just ahead of Cameron Barker, as we saw late on in that battle. And Robin Morling's instance put him eventually behind both of those two drivers in 10th. Antonios Paparanopoulos wins in 11th. From the Hypercar AMS, and that sounds a bit strange. The class win, of course, going to him. Vinicius Gonçalves not that far behind. Johnny, and then finishing 13th, better Daniel Scott. Those are Hypercar drivers. Then some more AMS and Jalidis on the podium, with John Mayer and Guillaume Benck rounding out the top five. Wouter de Bruin finishing 3 laps down in the end after his trials and tribulations. Carl Stroll as well, Stuart Lalonde as well, who had a penalty, and things didn't really improve for him from there. Sean Kelly finishes 21st ahead of the first of the GT3s. That's David Yunt just holding off JT Tammy to the line, with Alan Holden finishing in third place for the third round in a row. James Walker and Luciano Ichazo round out the top five, with Jamie Zalecki in sixth place in the end. Peter Meyer was first in the GT3 AMS. Max Suntham was in between Meyer and Craig Pullen, who finishes second in GT3 AM. Joining them on the podium is Stephen Miller, the championship leader in that class going in today. Matthew Overton finished 32nd, and Mike Pierce, who had a pretty miserable day, finishing 9 laps down. Eric Monet, Joey Chen, Stacey Scotts, and Alexander McQuarrie, second in the GT3 AM championship going into today, unfortunately retired before the finish. Well, those are your race results, and indeed, what a fantastic race it was. Still so early on in the season, difficult to really comment very much on that, but it is a race that certainly didn't disappoint here, Jim. Some great finishes there, but more importantly, great battling throughout the race as well, especially in the hypercar class, which we were focusing on out front. Very, very exciting to see.
Yeah, it was, fantastic. This has been... every time I come in and do one of these races, it always impresses me, the class of the racing from top to bottom. Just had a little bit of everything. We had some incidents that made it exciting, and it was just everything. It was this was fantastic. I definitely enjoyed this race.
Absolutely. Let's have a chat to Daniel Kirby now, the man who's come out on top this time around. Daniel, congratulations on your second win of the season, second in a row as well here at the 90 minutes of Imola. I mean, it was a fantastic battle between yourself and Hurlock and all the others actually throughout the day. Just what were you expecting from this race compared to what we actually got here this afternoon?
I think I expected what we got. Really, really close race. A lot of traffic to deal with, but it actually wasn't too bad. I think I went actually better than I was anticipating. So yeah, it was a really nice race with Hurlock there. That was sweet.
What does this mean for the season now? Because we're early on, but you two are starting to show yourselves as the two to beat, if you like. You're the only two who have taken a race win this time round, although this is the obviously the other race for you at Daytona. You were a little bit further behind when he won, and same the other way around at Sebring. But are you seeing this as a fight between the two of you maybe this season, this year, or is it too early to tell?
Yeah, it's probably gonna come down to one of us two, especially since they chose the same car as us. So we're pretty, and he's really fast. So yeah, it's I think gonna be pretty much down to luck. Like I think he got caught in someone else's incident today, so that's it's gonna be close, but I feel like it's gonna come down to other circumstances.
It's going to be a close season for sure. We'll look forward to it. Absolutely. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Just the usual. Everyone here at CMS, all the admins and SGS guys, is super thanks for all the work they put in for let us to do this stuff.
All right. Well, thanks for coming to have a chat with us after the race. Congratulations on the win, and see you at the next one.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much. That's Daniel Kirby, the overall winner here tonight in Hypercar. In Hypercar AM, Antonis Paparanopoulos took race win, and it also now joins us. Antonis, congratulations on the Hypercar AM win. I must admit, we didn't see very much of you today, but tell us a little bit about that battle that you were having for the lead at one stage. I know the gap at the line was quite a large one, but battles throughout the race that we were keeping an eye on. How was that fight for the win?
Hello. First of all, thank you, everybody. It was a great race in my part. Unfortunately, I had 2 penalties to serve, no qualifying and drive-through. So basically, I start half a lap behind the last hypercar, and I try to be steady and slowly to climb. I have no big accidents, no big issues. So yeah, it was a very nice race for me. And I didn't understand it because I was way too back from the beginning. I didn't notice who was in the lead. I didn't see anything in the startings. I was just driving. So just focused to not do any mistake because it was a very difficult track to lap cars and, you know, the GT3s and all that. It was very difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah, very happy.
And how did you sort of motivate yourself for this race, knowing that you had to start from the back of the field and start with that drive-through as well? How did that make you feel coming into the race in terms of what you expected to get at the finish?
Yeah, usually I motivated more with situation like that. So yeah, it's good, but it needs to be the track to be helpful to this. This track was a bit narrow and difficult to pass, but yeah, it's very. I'm very surprised also that I managed to make it through and make all these passes and most of them clean, I think. So yeah, all good.
All right. Well, congratulations on the win in Hypercar. Is there anybody you'd like to shout out before we let you go?
I want to thank you guys, because you are doing an amazing job on the live stream, on the broadcast, and also the guys in the CMS racing that organize all this championship is really amazing. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Antonis. Congratulations on the win, and we'll see you at the next race.
Yep.
Thanks very much.
I have to say, there has never been a man that sounds more like he should drive a Ferrari than him. That was fantastic. I could listen to him talk about racing all day long. That was awesome.
That was Antonis Paparanopoulos chatting to us at the end of tonight's race. Hypercar AM winner here today. Doesn't look like we're going to get our GT3 AM winner, but we have got GT3 winner David Yunt in the waiting room, and we can chat with him now as well. Congratulations, David, on the win here at the third round of our championship, your first win of the season, but it was very close at the end with yourself and JT. Tommy, tell us about those final few laps.
Yeah, hello. This reminds me a lot of the last season when I was driving the Acura against his Aston Martin, and we're really close there. And this time, like, the Mercedes is a bit of a heavy boy right now. It's really difficult, but it has good grunt out of turns. It does handle well. It does sound great, but it's a bit behind. And of course, since JT had these great, amazing opening 2 rounds, I needed to get back at him. So I needed to push a lot in like qualifying to get up into his, speed range again. Try to get out the max out of the car. I already got to thank Peter Grau that helped me, and William Schlichting and Brian van Boysekom with like making the car a bit more stable, drivable, and it showed a good pace in qualifying. Just edging out JT there, and in the race, I already got to say I'm hugely sorry. I was like not used to being on pole again, and then I was like really thinking that Hypercar might have an incident, and so I don't know. I'm sorry to JT for that. I already said like sorry to him, but it looked probably quite stupid there. But didn't mean to have contact with him there. And then, of course, as you said, there's a big pace race went on over the whole race. And I think JT at the end later had a bit more in the car, and the Mercedes started to spin up the wheels a bit more. And there was a lot of, I gotta say, I was not really I think the last race already showed a bit of problems that I have with the hypercars that are a bit, I don't know, in tunnel vision. And here, Imola is never a good place, but I've had on the top chicane, I let like the top 3 or 4 through, and the 5th outbraked himself so much that I needed to avoid him go basically nearly to the grass, and someone spun in the chicane, so we were so close to making contact. So I was really not a happy bunny there, and that did help JT have a bit more maybe at the end in his Aston, get close again, and got a bit stuck at some GT3s. But yeah, it was a very close race, and I hope at least JT enjoyed it for what it was too.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. It was a great battle between the two of you. You mentioned some of the characteristics between different manufacturers in GT3. It was a fight of different manufacturers at the front of that class, which we didn't get in Hypercar really today, but we did get in GT3. What does that mean for the rest of the season, the next few rounds, as to what your Mercedes is going to be like at Spa and Qatar before we get to Le Mans? How do you think they'll go around there?
Yeah, I'm a bit still unsure where we exactly are with the car. Like that, what Peter Grau did for us, it helped us. That helps the whole like BHR XGHR crew, like come together, crew and drive, and see if the Mercedes is just the handling is good, or it just feels good to drive and such. It's just, I think if I remember right, I was told, I gotta check it again. It's on the heavy side, so on the straight, I feel like I noticed it at Daytona, like the Ferrari really nice top speed and such. We had no Ryan Reyes here, so no real comparison to the Porsche here, which would have probably also been working well. Alan in the Ferrari is always a factor, but the Ferrari still seems a bit, lacking handling wise, or it's just not pulling through. I don't know, maybe also on wearing tires. And the Aston always seems to be the overall like nearly best car. It clicks well, and you can just drive it. I haven't driven it that much, and decided to go with the Mercedes, which I'm still not sure. We will see. I mean, as I said, Daytona, a lot of top speed with chicanes, and that was a bit unluck with like server crash. Then Qatar didn't go ahead, and I mean, we still have to go to Qatar after all. Sebring, I came back after I made a good strategic decision. That was all. Like that's how I kind of got close to the front again, but it was more like the management in the car itself was also good. So like the consistency, how the car seems to, just you can keep up the pace, and it works better on a long stint, I guess. But I'm not absolutely sure, and it was a completely different race distance which you could cover, and now we've got 90-minute races, which we will probably always see like more 2-stop races. So at Spa, I'm already hearing from JT that he might not be there or something. But again, it's gonna be. We will see how the car goes up and down the hill. Eau Rouge and up Camel Straight. Maybe maybe it lacks a bit again. But again, I feel the car has a good handling, and I'm kind of hoping we will be there again, like I was with the Acura last year in the rain. And we will. I'm not sure if I should look forward. If there would be rain or not. I think everyone's going to be like, no, please, no. But it would be interesting, I guess.
Yeah, well, you won't have to worry about it in Qatar, so we'll maybe get it out of the way
Oh, no.
before we get there.
I don't like the track.
Before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, again, I'm going to thank Peter Grau for making the car already more drivable, and we can just, we are in there now. I feel like the cars are a bit better in qualifying it. It gives a bit more oomph, and it's not just really difficult at the start. I still want to thank William and Brian from Boisecom. Brian, who made the skin and copied this for us over. So we've got 3 nice cars when they are entered in the race. Also thank to BHR, to Black Hawk Racing, because this is still kind of a Black Hawk Racing entry. So shout out to them, and to my family and my friends watching. Hi there, Sean.
Thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us, David. Congratulations on the win tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. That is David in the win there in the lead, and in the win for the LMGT3 category. What a great win it was as well for him. And as we've said, what a great race. Just before we close the stream, though, both of us give us your final thoughts, final assessment on this race. Firstly, Jim, 90 minutes of Imola. It's certainly produced, as we've said.
I loved every minute of it. It was thoroughly enjoyable, great racing, a lot of action. There wasn't there's typically a lull in these kind of races where you can get into just chatting amongst ourselves. That did not happen. This was action packed all the way through. Fantastic racing, as every race I've ever done in this series is. Yeah, it was fantastic. Just brilliant. Love it.
And Ross?
We have 3 weeks until Spa, and based off of a lot of what we saw today, I'm very interested to see how some of these penalties going into that round are going to play out, because I'm going to guess with as many as we saw that had to get served today, we'll have at least half as many, if not more, going into that round. And with a lot of championships very close and on the line, it's bound to make a difference. And we're not far from having to do Qatar and the 4.8 hours of Le Mans, which is going to be a big points race. So a lot needs to come about for these teams and for these driver championships where they want to try and maximize their positions, really set themselves up before going into the second half of the season.
Well, absolutely. We'll look forward to bringing that race to you. As you say, it's in 3 weeks' time. The 90 minutes to Spa is the next race. The historics are not racing between now and then either. So it is going to be a little bit of a wait before we get there. But 90 minutes to Spa, next round of the Virtual World Sportscar Championship Modern Series in 2025. And if the first 3 races are anything to go by, then it's certainly one not to be missed. We'll be live same time, same place, here on the JP YouTube channel for that one. I've been Neil O'Leary alongside Jim Cunningham, Ross Smith joining us in the commentary booth this afternoon, as well as James Parfitt pushing the buttons behind the scenes. We will hope to see you in 3 weeks' time at Spa. But for now, from all of us here from Imola, it's goodbye for now.